It's alright.
What the fuck, bruh?
What? Get it?
Ain't nothing.
What? Get it?
Ain't nothing.
What? Get it? There's some scary shit.
It's alright.
What? Get it?
Ain't nothing.
What? Get it? There's some scary shit. There's some scary shit. What?
Morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to the Vanguard. For Spike, Ad Rockaman, MSCA, Mike D. Goldine Medina, and the rest of the Maca Beastie Boys, I am Matt Wright, and together we are traversing the muddied waters of freedom.
I didn't even get to have my last name there. Hey, folks. Thanks
No.
for tuning in.
Totally
it's
forgot that you have one of those.
that I have a last name. No, that's good. That's good. Folks, thanks again for tuning in to this special end-of-year edition of the Muddied Waters of Freedom. Thank God this year is almost over.
Thank you.
Almost over. I picked that song as the intro because that's how many of us have felt for an entire year. And
Accurate.
It's almost over. Share this video right now. Share this podcast right now if you're listening to it after the fact. Share whatever it is you are listening or watching this on. Share it using that medium and all others that you have at your personal disposal. And be sure to like, follow, subscribe, everything else on Muddy Waters Media all over the internet. Give the gift of Muddy Waters today. Kids love it. And be sure to hit the bell. If you're on YouTube, hit the bell.
Hit that bell.
Hit that bell. I want your phone to blow up every single time we do anything. We want you to be notified.
Before I say that, first and foremost, allow me to thank the fine people at siestacava.com
Yes.
for the cava that I am drinking on today's episode.
And allow me to thank, of course, Nestle Pure Life, whose water I'm drinking today. I think we got it from Walmart. Bulavanaka.
Uvanaka. I think that we should. I've been watching a lot of YouTube recently,
Okay.
and I think that we should start doing like if you out there are watching us on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button, and if you subscribe, like this video or whatever you do on. I don't really know what you do on YouTube. If you subscribe and you like the video and you comment on this video, you will be entered into a drawing for this Chris Reynolds shirt. And then somebody things like that. We should just start doing that just so more people will sign up on our YouTube.
If you like this video and subscribe to this channel and comment positively, say something nice about us, we will enter you in a raffle, if you will, to win. You're not going to believe what you're going to win.
You're not going to believe it. It might actually be this Chris Reynolds shirt.
That's actually as good as any idea I'm coming up with right now.
Right.
Now, we do have an opportunity for you to get something of much, much better value. Historical value. Although, frankly, that shirt probably has historical value too. But for those who follow Muddy Waters very closely, you may or may not remember that last week my microphone died. It just died.
R.I.P.
We literally were late to the show last week because my mic died. Now, this isn't just any mic. This mic is the mic that I got when I first decided I wanted to start podcasting. I started with this mic. I had one episode. My first episode was like using the microphone on my built-in mic on my laptop. It was terrible. And ever since that, I used this Blue Yeti Blackout Edition. I think that's what it's called. Blue Yeti Blackout Edition. And it has served me very, very well. It started me at my humble beginnings as a humble podcaster with singles of listeners and watchers to its final time of serving me and us, serving the Muddied Waters community and the Greater Liberty Movement on my appearance on Kennedy. So it got me all the way to multiple national media appearances, and it thankfully did not die during Kennedy. It died
Immediately
after.
Immediately.
Like moments after. Thank God it stayed okay for Kennedy. But what we are doing is we are auctioning this mic off tonight. And the way that we're doing it is we encourage you to engage in the hashtag Big Black Mic auction. And the way that this works is in the comments, and you can do this on Facebook, you can do this on YouTube, you can do this on Periscope, you can do this on, I believe, Twitch. You can do this on all of the different platforms that we are on. You can comment live. If it's live, if it's not live, then it's already been auctioned off. But you can comment with your price, and we will give regular updates with what the highest bid is. So give your bids, and we will start the bidding at $50, which is just nothing. Let's be clear. This mic, Jacob, we're starting at 50. This mic is when it worked, it was $139. We got $50 from Sasha Cohen. This mic was $139. And I'll throw in this USB cord because it only works for this, and I think, well, no, the cord probably still works.
The cord probably, yeah, the
cord probably works. Oh, and by the way, also just to let you know, and I'll mention this later too, it might actually work. So it turns out that these are actually easy to fix, but I already said I'd auction it off, so here we are. Oh, and I'm gonna sign it too. I'm gonna sign it, personalize it with your name, give you a nice little message of your choice, and sign my name on it. Boom. And so, but it might actually, I'm told that the USB connection, which is more than likely what the issue is, actually can be relatively easily fixed if you know how to do such a thing. So imagine you could get a mic that not only is signed by the greatest vice presidential candidate to ever run in the history of the United States, me, but also you might be able to use it. Start your own podcast. Maybe you might end up on national television. Maybe. I don't know. I certainly can't guarantee that you won't. Bidding starts at $50. We are up to $75, but only if my wife signs it too. Okay.
Sure.
Sure. We're up to 75. So that we will be routinely coming back to this throughout the episode, but right now we're at 75, and we will be updating people. People are doing $50 and stuff. We're past.
We're past that.
We're past 50.
We're at 75 now.
We're at 75. So Shane Skinner 125. So we're now at 125. But we're not going to do this all night. Thank you guys. Right. We'll get back to the bidding very shortly. Matt,
this episode.
This episode, of course, I would never forget our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Black Coffee, spelled B-O. This episode is brought to you by the Libertarian Party Waffle House Caucus, the fastest growing waffle-related caucus in any party ever, because no one has done this. Be sure to join us at the Facebook group Libertarian Party Waffle House Caucus, where you too can become a member of the most dynamic waffle caucus in the history of such things. And if you want to, you can actually become an official member by buying one of our buttons. And the link to that is in the Waffle House Caucus group, or you can go to muddywatersmedia.com, go to our store, and click on wherever the button is. This episode is there's buttons. This episode is also brought to you by Black Coffee, spelled BLVCK, because what the hell, nothing means anything anymore. Be sure to go to Black Brews, blvckbrews.com, to get the most delicious cold brewed organic coffee to ever be horrifically misspelled. Be sure to use the checkout code MW for free shipping. This episode, of course, is also brought to you by Henry McMaster, who is rounding out 2020, having thoroughly proven that he was, and shall always remain a bitch.
Yeah. It looks like we're up to 140 now for that mic.
Wow. 140 for the mic.
140 for the mic.
140 for the mic. Speaking of 140 for the mic, Matt, this is the segment where we do the black organic coffee, cold brewed, caffeinated, rapid fire segment brought to you, of course, by Black Coffee, BLVCK Coffee. Be sure to go to blvckbrews.com and use code MW for that sweet, sweet free shipping. Less money for shipping, more money for coffee and spelling lessons.
Whew. So, after a week of posturing,
Yes.
saying there's no way that he would ever sign a spending bill of the magnitude of $2.3 trillion unless even more money was spent on stimulus, Donald Trump signed the $2.3 trillion stimulus or spending package. And to many of his supporters, this came as quite the shock. However, just shocking. But however, I see a lot of people saying, Trump could veto. Trump's been threatening a veto. Look, he's not going to veto. And let me tell you why. Because at the end of it, he still wants to be remembered. I'm the best. I'm the greatest president we've ever had.
Was a
People
week
love
ago.
me. Everybody out there loves me. I'm the greatest. He is not going to be the guy that doesn't give the stimulus to the people. He won't do that. He wants people to continue loving him, loving in quotes. He wants people to continue doing that without doing this, he is going to lose that for a lot of people who have been waiting for a new stimulus.
Donald Trump is a big government progressive.
A few months ago, the only reason he would veto this is because it wasn't big enough.
In fact, he just recently released he wants to bump it up and give everyone $2,000 and cut out the foreign aid, which, hey, you know what? Cut out the foreign aid. Let's be clear, the foreign aid's about $3 billion, give or take. So it's a pittance of it. Sure, cut it out. And honestly, if you were saying just give everyone $2,000 and cut out all the other stuff, don't do any of the other things, just give them $2,000, I'd be on his side if that's what he means. If he means just do it this way, again, we're not fans of handing out money to people, but when you shut down everything, you sort of have to make sure people don't starve to death. And I mean, this is terrible. It is the beginning of UBI, which is a terrible inflationary program that would be financially ruinous. Sorry to all my UBI-loving libertarians, but I've talked many times about why it would be ruinous, even worse than the welfare state, because there's no means testing, so politicians can just give you checks every day if they want to. So it's not a good thing, but I would side with him if he said, instead of $600 and all this other garbage, just $2,000 to everyone. I think and none of this other fluff or programs being created or whatever. I'd probably be like, yeah, you know what? Do that then. Do what he said. But he's not going to do that. He's going to talk. He's going to do what AOC does. There's a comparison. He's going to do what AOC does. He's going to.
That's a good comparison.
Signal to his supporters. He's going to play good cop to his
This is a terrible bill. This is a terrible bill. It shouldn't be passed. We need to be a better bill. This isn't good. This is not a good bill. We could have done so much better. And then he's going to
sign it. And guess what happened, folks?
Everything that we literally said, every single word
literally everything is exactly what happened.
Is exactly what happened. He was like, I'm going to send it back. I'm going to redline it and I'm going to send it back and they're going to have to pass that. And no.
Yep.
He signed it. And
we had the people when I put this out on Twitter and said, hey, look, he did the thing we said he'd do. A lot of people said, that's not true. He invoked the Impoundment Control Act of 1979. And I said, that's correct. You should read it. It says that he can delay funding for 45 days. That's it. That's it. And he's not going to be president for another 45 days. He just signed a bill to give money to Joe Biden to spend. He just eased, for all the talk of, is Donald Trump going to acknowledge that Joe Biden's the next president and help the transition? He just handed $2.4 trillion, give or take, to Joe Biden to ease that transition into the Biden presidency. He signed it. All the Impoundment Control Act says is that if he can tell Congress what he wants to have changed, Congress can decide to negotiate that. If they negotiate it the way he says, it automatically becomes that way. If they don't, or if they fail to or refuse to, it gets passed the way it was just signed. They just failed to change anything.
Yep.
The House added the $2,000, but that was it. The Senate, under Cocaine Mitch McConnell, said, nope, we're not just going to add the $2,000. We also have to couple that with repealing Section 230 and investigating the election. That failed. You're getting $600 and a nearly $2,500 bill for it.
That didn't fail. That vote didn't fail. He delayed the vote. He blocked the move to vote only on the 2,000. And then he said that he was like, if you want to put in the 2,000 because that's what Trump wants, we're going to couple it with the other things that Trump also wants. But he said, we're not going to vote on that until after we vote on the NDAA. So it's not that it failed. It's just that he blocked it from even reaching the floor at this time.
So when is it going to go through?
After the NDAA vote, but both ran. We're going to get to the NDAA.
Yeah.
It's at least going to be after that segment. So that's all that matters.
Yeah. So it ain't happening right now. The way it's written right now is what AOC and Trump complained about together. Yep. And then they both, AOC voted for it and Trump signed it. You got conned.
Yeah.
You got conned.
AOC said it's too long. Nobody has time to read it and voted yes. Trump said it's a terrible bill. Signed it.
Oh, and we were also told, well, he line item vetoed it. No, he didn't. The line item veto was ruled unconstitutional in 1998. There is no such thing as a line item veto at the federal level. He invoked the ICA, which allows him to delay funding until Biden's president. That's it. That's all he did. He signed a bill for Joe Biden to spend money on because he's the most libertarian president ever.
We're going to get to that later, too. That was 1998?
Oh, 1998.
No.
It was the bill was passed in 1996. It was immediately challenged by some of the senators who fought to get it to not pass it. And it hopped around federal courts through 96 and 97. And then in June of 1998, the Supreme Court refused to hear the case, which then by process of them refusing to hear it, it upheld the lower court's ruling that it was unconstitutional. So we haven't had a line item veto for 22 years, and we briefly had it for like 8 weeks.
Oh, okay. Because I was like, I remember a long time ago when I was in civics class, I answered that they could line item veto something, and it was unconstitutional at the time, and that wasn't in 1998. Yeah. So I was like,
they used to not have a line item veto. Then they introduced a bill called the line item veto act, which gave the president the ability to just veto specific parts of legislation, and then the Congress would have to vote to override those specific line item vetoes. And it was ruled unconstitutional.
Yeah.
They said that, they said that it is not up to the president.
Yeah.
They said that it is not up to the president to decide what parts of legislation he's okay with or not, or he or she is okay with or not okay with. They can either veto the whole thing or they can pass the whole thing. Because for them to be able to line item veto is a inherently legislative act. They are choosing which parts they want there to be law and which parts they don't. So it's actually an extra legislative process that is not what was intended for the executive. That's what the court said. And so there is no line item veto, and that's not what he did. He basically asked Congress if they'll renegotiate. So They might. They're going to possibly do it, and we might or might not get 2,000, or we might get just 600. And either way, we're also getting a huge bill. We're either getting a $600 check and a $2,400 bill with interest, or we're getting a $2,000 check and a God knows how much bill with interest.
I believe 4,000 is the estimate.
So we shall see.
So should the 2,000 get passed, should it happen, The estimate on how much that will increase the direct payments
Yes.
is to $463 billion.
Yes.
So that is one half of the 900 billion, just over one half of the $900 billion for the stimulus package already.
Right. Yep.
So it will add and make this 27-ish trillion or $2.7 trillion, making it the largest spending bill ever passed.
Yep. Most libertarian and conservative president ever.
Ever.
Keep in mind, the thing that the Republicans are praising him for right now is for saying, spend even more money that we don't have. Run up even more deficit spending, please. Oh, and also cut out $3 billion in aid, which again, as I said in that clip, good, cut it out. Cut all of everything out. That's fine. It's a drop in the bucket compared to the increase. That $3 billion, okay, great, take it out. You're talking about adding almost $300 billion to it. So you're taking out a penny and adding $1. That's right. Where you're taking out for every $1 billion you're adding $100 billion to it. That is not fiscal conservatism. It's many things, but fiscal conservatism is not one of it. Now, thankfully.
Well, hang on, real quick. I do understand why Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue? Loeffler and Perdue, the Senate, the Republicans in the Senate from Georgia.
Right.
I understand why they will vote for it.
Oh, of course.
I get it.
Yeah,
I get it. They are buying a vote, and I understand it. I get that. But I don't know if the rest of the Republicans will fall into that line. I kind of doubt that they will. Well, many of them will, but not all of them. Possibly enough to flip it, which is why Mitch McConnell wanted to pair it with everything else.
Yeah, exactly. Mitch McConnell's trying to kill this thing.
Oh, yes. He is
which
trying
is
to
very
kill it
interesting.
So hard.
It's very interesting what Mitch is doing. This is further proof that Mitch McConnell cares about Mitch McConnell and has a very, very long game going on. That is a very interesting human being, Mitch McConnell. Cocaine Turtle Mitch is making a typical cocaine turtle power move that he is want to make. But thankfully, we did have Christmas morning, specifically in the South. We had a great, peaceful morning. We got to spend time with loved ones on Zoom, or in person. Mine was in person, unless you were in Nashville. So someone took an RV. If you look there in the left corner, there's a white RV, and they parked it in front of the AT&T building, and then they exploded it. They blew it up.
They blew it up.
They blew it up.
They blew it
right up. Oh, and he was in it. As far as they found DNA evidence of his existence in that RV, enough to be certain that he was in it, and obviously died, because you don't survive being inside of a vehicle that does that.
So, for anybody who doesn't know, I before I moved here and started this whole thing, I lived in Nashville, and I know exactly where that truck was parked. I have walked right next to that spot countless times, and it's on Second in between Church and Commerce, I believe, right across from the spaghetti factory. Like, there's a lot of great businesses around there. Absolute tragedy that something like this is going to happen in downtown Nashville, especially on Christmas. And my heart goes out to every one of the business owners. They were already having a huge issue with the fact that their mayor was closing them down. And lockdowns, and their mayor was like making them even more strict than the governor was. So Nashville was having a really difficult time, especially the downtown businesses. So adding that to it, my heart goes out to everybody in downtown Nashville.
Yeah. Thankfully, it appeared no one died, correct?
Well,
Except for the person who did it. No one
right.
else.
No one else
who
died.
wasn't.
Three
Yeah.
people were injured.
Yeah.
3 people were injured, and 70 businesses were damaged.
So it's devastating what happened to the businesses and obviously to those people who end up being injured. Thankfully, no one's dead except for the person who decided to blow his RV up in the middle of downtown. So that's good. His name is Anthony Warner.
Anthony Warner.
And for some reason that we either don't know or hasn't been told yet, he locked himself in his RV and he set off a timer. And there was a loudspeaker that told everyone to evacuate the area before blowing himself up and doing the damage that we were just talking about in that historic area of Nashville. I actually listened to one that had the audio to it. It was actually a leaked video and it was creepy because it was something out of like Saw. You just hear this woman's voice saying, "If you can hear this, evacuate the area. You must evacuate the area. Evacuate the area. If you can hear that," and it was like on a loop for like I think 15 minutes, right? It was like for
so there was it said that for a while, and then when it got to 15 minutes, there was a countdown that said, "If you can hear this, evacuate. This is RV or vehicle or whatever is going to blow up." In 15 minutes, in 14 minutes, in 13 minutes, in 12. Yeah. And then it did a countdown to really let people know. And a big reason that a lot of the people left was because there was a countdown saying, this thing's going to blow up, get out.
Yeah, that's if anyone ever gives you a countdown and says to leave, just go ahead and do it.
Right.
Even if they're funning you, I'd rather have them go, I gotcha, than actually blow up and then you're dead.
Right.
So yeah, no, it was a very, very creepy thing. So what did you find? I couldn't find out much about the guy other than he had a computer business. Like,
yeah. So I found out a little. I did not find out a lot. He had a house in Antioch, Tennessee, which is right outside of Nashville.
Right.
He ended up just giving his house to some woman. Just gave it to her. He'd been there for like 10 years or something like that. Mm-hmm. And he just signed it over to this woman who hadn't signed it. She didn't even know that it was being given to her. His neighbors just said that he was a quiet guy, seemed nice. They all said, the typical, he doesn't seem like he heard it. He never would have guessed that he would hurt anything. He wouldn't hurt a fly.
Right.
He used to watch after
he was
my
so
dog,
quiet. Whatever. He was so quiet. He kept to himself. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, he was a loner. He was a recluse. They were, and they said his next door neighbors had talked to him a couple of weeks beforehand, or a week beforehand or something. Mm-hmm. And he was asking, he saw him out by the mailbox when he was driving by, and he said, "Hey, yeah," and, talked to him about Christmas, what his plans were. I mean, that guy's got plans for Christmas, but he said, the neighbor asked him if Santa had anything in store for him. And he goes, he said, he's like, Nashville and the world is going to remember me after this Christmas. And the guy just thought that maybe something to do with his computer business. Maybe he was getting some cool gift. He didn't even consider
that he was going to a terrorist attack. Yeah.
He was going to do a terrorist attack.
Yeah, I would. I'm trying to think any of my neighbors that if they said something like that, I would go to terrorist attack. No,
there really isn't a whole lot that one of my neighbors would say to me that I would have, unless they're like, I'm going to go blow up.
Yeah. If they actually said it, yeah.
If they just kind of like said something, if they just kind of said something off the cuff, then no, like something flippant, I would just be like, okay, cool. Have a good day, man.
Yeah. You wouldn't think terror attack. This is a few other things you might think. And it's also how we said it. Like, we now have the hindsight of 2020 knowing what happened, unless he's like, they're going to remember me. Like, if you just said, people are going to remember me, be like, hey, yeah, Merry Christmas, pal. And then you go on about your day. You don't really think of it. But so
And yeah, so like
Thankfully, yeah.
Brandy Powers said, why park in that spot specifically? Apparently that was a massive cell hub for AT&T. And some people are saying that he was on this anti 5G crusade. I'm not going to say that because I don't know. We don't know. He didn't leave a manifesto. He didn't leave any notes. There was no reasoning behind it that they have found or they haven't released. So we don't know. We just know that he went to Nashville, parked in front of the AT&T building, and
blew himself up.
Blew himself in an RV up.
It's possible he was in some kind of like beef with AT&T over like some kind of customer service thing, and it just went to his head or something. Like we don't know. Don't know. It's the odds of it being a good reason are very low. There aren't a lot of good reasons to blow yourself up in front of a major building on Christmas morning. Like it's not.
And the AT&T building is so cool.
Oh, is it?
It's just a cool building. It looks like a Batman building. It's just a really cool building.
So we don't know, and we don't know why. So he claimed his home to some stranger.
Yeah. Well, not a stranger. I guess they know each other. I'm not even 100% sure. But it's some woman that she didn't know that she got the home. She had to sign the deed, but it was all written out that she was going to be the new owner and she just needs to sign on that line.
That is so weird. This is such a weird story. Hopefully we find out more, because why the hell did he do this? Hopefully we find out what actually happened. But now, good news is that the ATF has told you that your stabilizing brace on your weapon, if you have one, will be legal, at least until Joe Biden's president.
Right. A couple of weeks ago, we actually reported on this that they were going after the stabilizing braces, but no, not anymore. They released a notice saying that they were withdrawing the former notice. So if you are somebody out there with stabilizing braces on your pistols and whatever else,
don't tell anyone.
Don't tell anyone, but you're okay for now.
Okay, I'll say it. Stop telling everyone about all your guns. Like, it's one thing to tell them that you're armed or to show a gun or something just to normalize it. But I know a lot of people that they just share all their guns.
Stop posting that on the internet.
Now everyone knows you have all these guns, and they've got pictures of it, and there's photographic evidence, and they know what to look for. It's just no. What's a gun? Yeah.
Do you know how many guns I own?
No.
0.
I don't even know what a firearm is.
I know I served a little bit of time in the military. I understand what one is, but I own 0.
I mean, I think I've seen one on TV.
Oh, I've definitely seen that. I watch a lot of Tarantino.
It was, I saw a thing and it made a noise. Now, you know what you can get?
I watch a lot of cop shows. They use them all the time.
Well, you know what you can get, and the ATF has not ruled that it's illegal yet, and you definitely want to get one before Joe Biden bans it, and that is a dead microphone. This microphone, for those who didn't catch it earlier, we are doing a hashtag Big Black Mic auction, and this is the microphone that I have been using for the better part of 3 years now, and it has helped to propel me to where you see me today, here in my house on this show.
In the same seat you saw me.
Literally the exact same seat that I started this show in. Although I'm thinking I might end up getting a new chair too. But anyway, so we are auctioning this mic off. It is own a piece of history. This mic started started my career interviewing mostly just my friends with singles, sometimes dozens of people watching. And it has, propelled me to the point of actually being on national media and having many more singles of people watching and listening a couple zeros have been added to that over the years, and so a lot of history here. And you can have this. I will sign it with your name. Well, sign my name, but I'll personalize it with your name. And you can get this today for the low price of whatever the highest bid is during this auction. And I will also send the cord, because it works. You can use it for something else. And also, I am told that it's possible that this might be able to be fixed. Supposedly, these connectors break easily and are replaced somewhat easily as well. So you could potentially have a mic that was used by me and signed by me that you can use in your podcasting / virtual schooling / whatever you want to use a microphone for career.
Right now, the bid is at $140.
Is that 140? Are we at 140? So the opening
140.
Bid, the highest bid is in fact at 140 United States dollars.
Yes.
And that's where we are right now. I'm going back to make sure we don't have anything higher, but it looks like, yeah.
I've been kind of keeping an eye on it.
Oh, okay. So we're at 140. We're at 140, and whoever has the highest bid at the end of the show will be the lucky winner of this microphone. Someone said that's only $18 on Amazon. This is definitely not only $18 on Amazon. No. These are... I guess maybe a broken.
I literally bought the same mic so we would sound the same, and then
mine breaks. I love it. I've now got this really cool microphone. It's a Shure MV7, which is like a really it's the kind that Joe Rogan uses. So,
if more people would visit anchor.fm/muddied waters and hit the donate button, I'd be able to get one of those too.
Derek Ambrose offers a $600 credit on my taxes. Well, I already got one of those. So thank you. Okay.
So
that's where we are right now. And Elizabeth Coquillard says, for the love of God, wait for my stimulus. Well, listen, you can pledge now. I mean, you don't have to pay this very second. We will want it relatively soon. But yeah. So we'll let that continue. But now we are going on to yet another item that is going on, and that is the NDAA, which is a convoluted mess. I know you're surprised to hear that.
So, fun facts. The NDAA started 60 years ago. There's a 59-year streak of passing it. In case you didn't know that. I learned that not long ago, and I felt I needed to share. When Trump vetoed the NDAA, this Congress said, we're not going to be the first one in 60 years not to pass one. Now, he vetoed it not because, the outrageous spending, or
because it should be. Yeah.
As it should be. He vetoed it because it didn't get rid of Section 230. There were provisions in it seeking to halt the U.S. troop withdrawals in Afghanistan and Germany, and it changed the name of military bases around the world named after Confederate generals, which
So it changed the names of bases from Confederate generals.
Yeah, did I say that wrong?
No, I just think I read it wrong.
Okay.
Because God knows, I'm perfectly fine with worldwide mass murder campaigns as long as the bases aren't named after racists.
Right. Racists that we long ago accepted into our military, and now we need. I don't know. I don't know. Now, the House voted yesterday 322 to 87 to override the veto.
Wow.
Which easily surpassed the 2/3 majority that they needed. And now it has to go to the Senate, where it needs the same 2/3 to pass without a signature, but it's going to be slightly more difficult because in a rare but not as rare as other occasions, Rand Paul and Bernie Sanders are saying they're going to stall the bill for different reasons.
Right.
Rand is going to stall because he wants to end the Afghan war and bring the troops home. Bernie is going to stall the bill until we get the $2,000.
So this bill actually, the way it is written, it actually, am I correct that it halts? Trump wants to halt U.S. troop withdrawals, or this bill halts
The bill halts.
Okay, halts U.S. troop withdrawals in Afghanistan and Germany. So that's actually a good reason to veto it.
Yes.
Okay.
That one is.
So
that
Rand
one is.
wants to get...
Everything that I was reading about it from the media was because he wants to get rid of Section 230, which, real quick, guys, if you get rid of Section 230, do you think social media is going to be a better place?
Oh, God.
Do you know how bad it will get if they can be held liable for the things that we say on their platforms?
Guys, we are and have often been the victims of big tech. Yeah. We are not defending big tech by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
If you make it so that big tech companies, that Facebook can be held liable for anything that happens as a result of something that was written or posted on Facebook or on YouTube or on Twitter, they are going to so heavily monitor and censor everything you do. You think you're being heavily censored now? You won't get to say that something's dumb. You won't be able to give your opinion about anything. Even, and they can't individually monitor you, so they're just going to set the bots free. It's going to be there will be entire words you can just never say, and not like bad words like bad and dumb and guarantee and anything that a lawyer would look at and go, you might get sued for that. This is a total nightmare. It would effectively end social media. And by the way, not just Facebook, but also Parler and MeWe and Float and all the third-party ones. Anything that is a social media platform, the people who own it can be sued for anything that anyone says or does using that platform as a medium for communications.
Yep.
All social media will be heavily, 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 heavily censored because it has to. You will be back to...
Patricia Marie says Moist will be banned. And yes, Moist would be banned.
Moist will absolutely be banned.
Because of how many people dislike that word.
Yep. Caitlin Cloven says, but my redneck uncle said Section 230 is what Zuckerberg is using to control our shadow government. It has to go. No, you're right. You're right.
That's true.
That's true. It is true that Section 230 also says that Mark Zuckerberg can control your thoughts and send children to rape bases in Mars for the reptilian overlords that control our deep state government.
Yep.
That's not the part that we're against repealing. We're against repealing the other part. The part that
would literally end social media.
End social media.
Right.
It would end social media. And people go,
over.
Well, shouldn't companies be able to be sued for things they do? Yes, for things they do. If you make it the law that you can be sued for something that someone says or does on your platform, which means Mark Zuckerberg can end up being treated like Ross Ulbricht, say goodbye to social media as anything other than a heavily, heavily approved. You will be allowed to post pictures of your pets after you have proven you own them through registration, and maybe food, but possibly not that.
I was going to say depending, because you could offend somebody with an allergy.
This is bad.
Yeah. Don't get rid of Section 230. If you want to reclassify them as publishers, as opposed to platforms.
Yeah.
That's a different discussion. Completely different discussion. But if you get rid of Section 230, which keeps them from being able to be sued for what we say on their platform, well, this show is gone.
Yeah.
This show is so gone.
All the shows are gone.
All the shows are gone.
Everything is gone. No one. Big tech would rather social media not exist than for them to be perpetually, potentially exposed to lawsuits because you posted something and it offended someone else. And so they're going to err on the side of caution. The bots will be all over the freaking place. If pictures, here's a perfect example. In reaction to legislation that was passed to protect children against objectionable content, YouTube put out bots that if you have a lot of bright and bright and pretty colors or cartoonish looking effects on your video, it automatically reviews it to see if it's potentially being marketed to children, and it greatly reduces the amount of money you can make because it greatly reduces the kind of advertising that's allowed on your video, even if it has nothing to do with children. Imagine if those same bots are being told, get rid of anything that could potentially get us sued. Social media ends as a result of that. Not because no one wants it anymore, but because no one wants to get sued out of existence. So the only social media that is left is like illegal underground social media that the vast majority of people are going to be too scared to use because it will be easy to track if you're using it or not. This is a terrible, 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 terrible idea. There are all sorts of things that can be done, mostly just deregulating the social media and internet sphere so that more competitors can come in, which is why they never actually talk about that because it's an actual solution. But this is a terrible idea. We definitely do not want that. Yeah, you'll have to get FDA permission to post pictures of food. This is really, 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 really bad. No,
So
bad.
So the House voted 322 to 87 to override Trump. Now it goes back to the Senate. Well, we already did that part. So outside of halting troop withdrawal, the NDAA included 14 Lockheed Martin F-35 Joint Strike Fighters over what the Department of Defense budget requested of 12 F-35ASs and 2 F-35As and 2 F-35Bs. So they're getting 14 over.
Yeah. They're getting more planes than they asked for.
Yeah, they're getting more than they asked for.
And these planes are like hundreds of millions or billions of dollars each.
This one, actually, I don't have that big of a problem with. The Air Force is to add 6 F-35s that Turkey had originally paid for, but when Turkey bought weapons from Russia, they voided their contract, so now we just have the planes. I'm okay with that. They can have that. They voided a contract, sure. All right. I may not agree with the terms of the contract, but it was a contract.
It was a contract, yeah.
It was a contract. 9.1 of the 730 billion is in those planes. There is full funding of Northrop Grumman's B-21 stealth bomber, which includes the first year of procurement funds. The Pacific Deterrence Initiative, which will enhance and focus Department of Defense efforts to counter China's influence in the Indo-Pacific. Funded at $2.2 billion, includes investments in infrastructure and equipment to the region.
Billions of dollars to make sure that China doesn't flex their muscles in China. Like the Indo-Pacific. Imagine if the Chinese government spent billions of dollars to send their Navy here to keep the U.S. military from flexing their muscles in the Gulf of Mexico or off the coast of California or Pearl Harbor or the Port of Charleston or the Florida Keys or, just a matter of miles away from the shoreline of the United States. That's what that is. That'll help.
Yep. It provides $250 million for the Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative, which provides support and assistance to the Ukrainian armed forces. It prevents reduction in the number of U.S. forces stationed in Germany below 34,500. So no matter what, there will always be 34,500 troops over in Germany.
The hotbed that is Germany.
The hotbed that is Germany right now. It fully funds the European Deterrence Initiative and invests in additional capabilities to support deterrence in the European Command Area of Operations. $500 million. A lot of people are saying that this was in the spending bill, but apparently it's not in the spending bill, but it's in the defense bill, the NDAA.
So is it two separate things, or this is the money to Israel?
So I never found the money to Israel in the spending. I didn't go through 5,000 pages.
So this must be the okay.
I'm thinking that it's this.
Okay.
$500 million in U.S. assistance to Israel under the U.S.-Israel Memorandum of Understanding for 8 years. One of the largest historical provisions of defense aid to Israel. One
of the richest per capita countries on earth that already has a massive military and a lavish social safety net. You are having debt run up in your name and your children and grandchildren's name to hand even more money to that and many other governments.
It authorizes the State Department to offer rewards for providing information on foreign election interference and provides a definition of foreign election interference. And I can't see how that could possibly go wrong. I can't think of how that could go wrong.
There's no way that could go wrong.
No. One of the sections lays out higher requirements for appellate military judges for the appeals court process, which actually isn't a bad thing. Okay. They need 12 years of minimum experience. However, the very following subsection says it can be waived if it will impair the ability of the court to hear and decide appeals in a timely manner.
So however many paragraphs was spent on that were a complete and total waste, because this is how government works, by the way. So they'll introduce a reform, but they'll give weasel wording to themselves so that they can immediately invoke it and go, well, we can't do this. This would impair the ability of the court to hear and decide appeals in a timely manner. The first example of this weasel wording is actually in Article 1 of the Constitution. It's called the habeas corpus clause, and what it says is that, and I'm paraphrasing, but it basically says that the ability of government to suspend habeas corpus, government shall not be allowed to suspend habeas corpus, which means they can't hold you without a reason for holding you. They can't detain you indefinitely. They have to give you due process and all of that. They can't just hold you forever, unless there's a war, and it names a couple, or insurrection, unrest, or some other condition that may require it. So when we talk about, Guantanamo Bay is unconstitutional, or, holding American citizens, detaining them against their will indefinitely without trial, that's unconstitutional. No, it's not. No, it's not. The founders, the Hamiltonians, absolutely put in the Constitution the weasel wording that allows them to do that. So this is just continuing on that proud Federalist tradition of weasel wording.
And if you wonder why, when Donald Trump was all upset about everything this summer, and he said, Antifa is a terrorist group.
Yes,
it's because he is able to then hold anybody
that he calls Antifa.
Yep. Indefinitely.
Yep.
Because they are a terrorist group.
Yep. And since Antifa is not an actual structured organization, he can call anyone Antifa that he wants to.
Yeah.
And then that means he can waterboard them. He can send them, and now Joe Biden can. Joe Biden now will soon get to decide who is or is not a terrorist.
We're going to miss all of you, by the way.
Yeah, really? Yeah. Well, actually, you might be with us. So you never know, but
And what it does, what essentially what the NDAA of 2021 does, is it takes a lot of power from the legislative branch.
yep.
And it hands it to the executive. Just gives the power that they once had, and they said, "No, you can have it, Mr. President."
Checks
or
and
Madam
balances.
President. We don't need that. They just handed it away because they said, "No, you guys can deal with it. We don't want to deal with that. We're only making $135,000 a year, or whatever it is."
He can't possibly be involved in this whole legislating things and reviewing the executive branch and providing counsel and advice and counsel. You can do all that. That'll be
You can
easier.
do that.
You're all already in the same office. You can just do everything.
Right. But yes, that is what the NDAA is doing. It gives a lot of money to a lot of different places. It ensures that we won't be taking troops home from places from Afghanistan or Germany or probably
Germany.
some other places.
Yeah.
For quite some time. And it takes a lot of the power that at one point was given to the legislative branch for a specific purpose and hands it off to the president.
Yep. Once again, the Congress is abdicating their responsibility and giving away power to the executive branch. Now, I'll tell you one thing that is good to give away, and that is this dead microphone. We are doing, if you just tuned in, we are doing an auction of my microphone that I have been using for since the beginning of my podcasting career, and which finally came to a sudden and screeching halt in between my recording with Kennedy, or my live episode with Kennedy, and the holiday
Live
special,
Christmas show.
the live Christmas show. And if I had to pick a thing between those for it to go dead, the live Christmas show, we were a little late. I will be thankful. This thing served me well. It struggled to hang on and stay with me through the Kennedy interview, and for that I will always love you. But now it's time for you to go off to someone who will keep you for your historical value that you have as being Spike Cohen, Libertarian Party vice presidential candidate and podcaster, world renowned. Everyone in the world. Extraordinaire. Podcaster extraordinaire. To keep this in your collection. And also, we're told you might be able to fix it, because it turns out it's just this connector, this USB connector here. And I'll give you the cord. I'll give you the cord too. You can have the cord. So are we still at 140 for the bid? I'm gonna bid for it. Caitlin Cloven, she's gonna bid for it and then put a Joe Jorgensen sticker on it. We definitely have room for that.
Yeah. Tons of room for that.
Tons of room.
Yeah.
So we're at 140. We are at 140. And so what we will be doing is, at the end of this episode, whoever has the highest bid, we will be giving this microphone, selling or rewarding you for your bid.
Right. For your donation.
For your donation, we will be giving you this totally coincidentally, but only if you have the highest bid.
You have to have the highest donation.
The highest donation.
The highest donation to Muddied Waters Media gets you a microphone.
Tom Pinkasoff asks, have we thought of getting the microphone on Joe Rogan? Sure.
I would love to have that microphone on Joe Rogan.
Just have it sit here. And Joe's like, hey, man, you ever tried DMT? And the mic's like, because it's a mic.
The mic just stares blankly.
The mic just stares micedly.
Micedly
staring at the Joe Rogan. So yeah, no, you can get this. We are at 140, and we are continuing to take bids all the way through. Now, we as we mentioned before, 2020 will be remembered for a lot of things, but one of the things it'll be most remembered for will be the fact that we got to experience.
Actually, in all fairness, that's the last 4 years.
Yeah, that's true. Well, it was the final year. It turned out to be the final year
The final
of
year.
us living under the governance, the guidance, if you will, of the most libertarian president of possibly all of American history. Not just now,
Ever.
but ever in any country in history. Easily the most libertarian one, Donald J. Trump. And so we here at Muddy Waters Media have put together a video thanking Donald Trump for his very, very libertarian, not remotely big government authoritarian actions by putting together a series of his greatest hits in what we call Thank You, President Trump.
We will bridge our divisions, heal our wounds, and unify our country. And if we do that, if we work together, then there is nothing we cannot achieve as Americans. There are a lot of things that I'm unhappy about in this bill. There are a lot of things that we shouldn't have had in this bill, but we were, in a sense, forced. If we want to build our military, we were forced to have. There are some things that we should have in the bill. But I say to Congress, I will never sign another bill like this again. I'm not going to do it again. I like taking the guns early, like in this crazy man's case that just took place in Florida. This bill contains $85.5 million for assistance to Cambodia. Our order also does the following. Ends the policy of catch and release at the border. $134 million to Burma. And it's going to be a real war. It's going to be a high war. It's going to be a beautiful. It's going to be a war that works. $25 million for democracy and gender programs in Pakistan. Calls for the hiring of another 5,000 Border Patrol officers. Calls for the tripling the number of ICE officers. $1.3 billion for Egypt and the Egyptian military, which will go out and buy almost exclusively Russian military equipment. So today I'm announcing that I have directed Secretary Perdue to provide $16 billion in assistance to America's farmers and ranchers. $505 million to Belize, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Panama. Creates an Office of Homeland Security dedicated to supporting the victims of illegal immigrant crime. $566 million for construction projects at the FBI. This support for farmers will be paid for by the billions of dollars our Treasury takes in. Will be taken in, depending on what period of time we're talking, many billions of dollars. I am asking Congress to amend this bill and increase the ridiculously low $600 to $2,000. Take the guns first, go through due process second.
And everyone stood and clapped.
Everyone stood and clapped. I was really worried at the end there that I misspelled libertarian.
You're like waiting the whole time, like,
Yeah, I was like, crap. I'm pretty certain I spelled that correctly.
he said he was gonna he said he was gonna drain the swamp, but it turns out that it's a federally protected wetlands.
Jonathan Trommer says that soft emotional background music is like 10 cents a day vibes, which that was exactly what I was looking for. That was what I wanted.
We were going for Arms of an Angel, but not getting
sued
or
demonetized
or having our video taken down, but that same general vibe. So if it made you feel like we were going to tell you that for the price of a cup of coffee a week, you too can save a starving Ethiopian badger. That's what we wanted. By the way, for the small price of a cup of coffee a week, you too can save a small Ethiopian badger.
For the small price of a candy bar a day, you can give somebody a $600 stimulus check.
For the small price of the highest bid at the end of this episode, you too can save the life of this microphone. Because again, I'm being told that you can fix it. It looks like this thing is out a little bit, so you can fix this. And then you.
Oh, did you just yank that thing out one day?
No, I literally wasn't even touching it. It was weird. So, a little bit of a backstory here. I was doing my sound check with Kennedy's. A couple hours before they call you and just do a sound check and tell you where the mic should be positioned and everything else. And I'm talking with him, and all of a sudden I couldn't hear him. And I went, "Well, that's not good." And he couldn't hear me. So I messed around with it a little bit, and it was working fine again. I went, "Okay." Then that night, I do the interview with Kennedy. Everything works great. I get up, I go to, I think, like grab something to drink or something, come back to get ready for the show with Matt, because it was like 10 minutes later, 5 minutes later, and it didn't work ever again. Opening bid for 100. Right now we're at the high bid of $140 and I think 1 cent. I think someone did that. I think someone did the 140 and 1 cent. Anyway,
don't even accept that.
Yeah, don't do that. Yeah, we're doing at least $5 increments. Don't do the thing unless you go up to 420.69. That we will allow that.
Right.
If you go up to 420.69, we will allow you to do bids that are not in $5 increments.
Correct.
So speaking of
people shamelessly giving us money.
Oh, I like that. There's a lead in. Speaking of people giving us money for a long time, now is the this is a segment that we like to call the personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds, attorney at law, Anchor call-in moment, where you can go to anchor.fm and leave messages for us, and we listen to them and answer them every single week. You can go on anchor.fm/muddied waters and press the leave a message button. You can leave us messages and we will answer them. You can also, there's a button right next to it where you can donate money to us. You can give us money. And you do not have to give us money to leave a message or for us to answer it, but we will like you more.
We will. I've seen this a couple of times throughout in the comments throughout this episode. Yes. People wondering about the hot dog story from Matt Hicks. Now, I want to let everybody know that Matt Hicks made a video explaining the hot dog story. Mm-hmm. It was about 20 minutes long. In his computer, and let's just say it wouldn't export properly. I don't know what the issue was on why it wouldn't export properly, but he's going to work on it, and hopefully we have it next week.
For next week.
But I'm not making that promise.
Hopefully we will ring in the new year with the hot dog story.
The hot dog story.
The infamous hot dog story.
The 20-minute long hot dog story.
20-minute hot dog epic, if you will.
The Odyssey.
The Odyssey of the hot dog.
The hot dog Odyssey.
The hot Dodyssey.
Yes.
So here are the questions. We have actually quite a few of them, and we will start with this one from Joni Saad.
Hey, Spike and Guy on Left. This is Joni in Texas. I was calling to see if you guys had seen the body cam footage of Joshua Feast. He was shot by police in Lamarck, Texas, just outside of Houston. And if you guys had seen that, I'd like to know what your thoughts are. I feel like that cop decided to shoot him before he even opened that door. But yeah, let me know what y'all think. Bye.
I have heard of this, but I have not. I have not actually seen. I'm trying to see if I can find the. Oh, the the Joshua Feast shooting.
Joshua Feast, yeah. No, I watched it. Was he like ready to shoot as soon as he opened the door? Possibly, but according to police and anybody that watches this show knows that I don't side with the blue often, and I'm not siding with them here on this one. I'm taking a neutral stance because I don't know everything, because I only saw the video once. They're saying that he had a gun at the beginning before the cop got out of the car. So if that was true, then yes, I get why the cop was ready to shoot. I don't know enough about this case to give an educated opinion on it. Whether or not Feast has the gun out at the moment that the cop pulls up on him is the difference maker in how I think. That is the difference maker, and I don't know that answer. So I cannot, Joni, I'm very sorry. I want to be able to give you a better answer, but I can't.
Yeah,
until I know.
I'm watching the video while Matt's talking, and context is everything. If this were just he pulled someone over and they got out and ran and he just opened fire like this, then it is beyond, like, this is just totally egregious.
And from what I understand, they pulled him over because he was wanted in a homicide.
Now,
under suspicion of a homicide.
Yeah. Now, with that said, officers are not allowed to shoot someone who is running away. It becomes somewhat murky if the officers.
Wouldn't that depend on the state?
I believe that there is federal precedent that you can't shoot someone for running away. The stop or I'll shoot thing that's not real. You can't do that. So where did the video go?
Sylvester Stallone ruined that.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was actually Estelle Getty technically ruined.
Well, he was the one that said it though.
Well, but she was the one that did it.
I am so glad you got that reference of that terrible, terrible movie.
Of Stop or My Mom Will Shoot.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny. Anyway,
you watched it when you were 12. Of course you did.
Well, yeah. I thought it was funny. So, yeah, I'm looking at this video. I will say, even if they had a reason to think he had a weapon on him, guy's kind of running away right off the bat. Andy's firing at him as he's running away. But if this is not as cut and dry as it looks if they actually did know that he had a weapon ahead of time, or they had already seen a weapon. If it was truly just they pulled him over in suspicion and he ran away and they shot him. Yeah, no, that's he was looking to shoot him before he even got out of the car.
Right. And that's the big difference maker. That's the big difference maker. Yeah. Yeah. And Patricia Marie says, how many shots were fired? I
think 2.
Yeah, I was gonna say it wasn't like oh god, what was the guy who was getting back into his car, or he was trying to go into his car and his kids were in there? I can't remember his name.
Oh, Jacob.
Yep.
Yeah, in Wisconsin. Yeah. Jacob.
I was gonna say Minnesota, but that was George Floyd.
That was George Floyd. Yeah.
George Floyd was in Minnesota.
Yeah,
but
this was Wisconsin. Yeah.
And he got shot in the back like 14 times. Like, that was egregious and awful.
Yeah. This was Jacob Blake. Yeah. This is a tough one, guys. Like, looking at it, and unfortunately, you're kind of having to go by what the police said about this.
Right. And Jim Lee is right. Under suspicion doesn't get the death penalty. And I agree.
That's correct.
Totally.
That's correct.
That is 100% agree. If he brandished a weapon at the beginning of everything, it changes.
It changes a lot of stuff.
It changes all of it, and that's the part that you don't know.
Because what it changes is the split second mindset of getting out of the car. And again, we are not back the blue guys here. Like everyone who watches this knows, putting yourself in a situation where if someone had just pointed a weapon or had a weapon and now they're jumping out of a car, by the time you're firing and realizing they're running away. One reason why I'm somewhat agreeable to believing what they're saying is he fired, and then I think as he's realizing he was running away and not doing something towards him, he stopped, as opposed to just emptying his magazine on the guy as he's running away. That, again, this stuff happens in split seconds, and we're able to sit here and watch it from the comfort of our chairs, as opposed to being there in that moment, in the dark and everything else.
We get to Tuesday.
There's a lot of questions. Yeah, there's a lot of questions here.
We Tuesday evening quarterback these things.
Yes.
And a lot of times, again, not back the blue. A lot of times we're like, oh yeah, he shouldn't have acted this way. He shouldn't have done that. But what Spike says in the moment, whatever.
This is a tough one.
Oh God. What was that guy's name? The guy, he was in Arizona. He answered the door.
Ryan Shaver.
Yes.
That was cut and dry. I don't want to hear any excuses for that nonsense.
Zero excuse whatsoever. Yeah. We watched that so many times, but I watched it so many times. We showed it on the show
we
once.
Watched it multiple
that show
times.
Will never make money because that's on there.
Yeah.
But totally worth it to show it.
Yeah.
In that moment, the cops did everything wrong. I don't care what their training says. I don't care. In the heat of the moment, they did it wrong.
Yeah, no, it was wrong. He was his hands were already down. He was already, yep.
I watched this video, and I typically will automatically take the side of whoever gets shot.
Me too. Yep.
And in this one, I watched it, and I went,
yeah. Uh-oh. Yeah. I will say, first watching it, the first thing I think is, okay, he gets out of the car and runs away and you're shooting at him. Why? If the answer is because he was just pointing a weapon at us or at other people, or we saw him brandishing a weapon, oh, okay, well, that definitely makes things a lot different. Obviously, we need to end qualified immunity. We need to end the war on drugs. We need to reduce the number of police interactions with the public so that the only time that they are getting engaged in something like this is if it's something like a drive-by or a armed robbery or a attempted murder or attempted rape, or, getting a suspect of one of these things, as opposed to them often just giving people a hard time for violating a law or being suspected of violating a law that shouldn't even be a law and has no victims. This leads to distrust of the police. I would prefer for us to all be able to look at this and in context be able to go ahead.
Ryan Whitaker.
Ryan Whitaker. I was combined. So Ryan Whitaker, Daniel Shaver was the one where the officer made him play Simon Says. And yeah.
Right.
Okay. All right. So I wish we could tell you more, but we'd need to know more about what happens. But there's certainly, I will say it certainly looks, it's questionable at the least. But so here is a question from Will McElveen.
Will McElveen here on the Chris Reynolds personal injury attorney anchor call-in moment, TM. I just got pot shamed by my mother. How terrible on Christmas Eve to be pot shamed by your own mother. Hashtag guy on phone.
Hey, listen, it happens to the best of us.
Yeah. Never actually, that never happened to me.
Didn't happen to me on Christmas.
It never happened to me because, well, maybe it did, and I just don't remember it.
It ain't shame if you don't remember. That's not true. So, okay, here's the next one from Will McElveen.
Will McElveen here on Chris Reynolds personal injury attorney anchor call-in moment, TM. I meant to tell y'all, she pot shamed me because she said I've already smoked too many joints today. How ridiculous is that? It's Christmas Eve. I should be able to smoke 30 joints if I want to. Anyway, love y'all. Hashtag guy on phone.
We're celebrating the birth.
Happy Hanukkah.
Hey, thank you. We're celebrating the birth of our Savior. Why can't I smoke 30 joints?
I should be able to smoke as many. It comes from the earth.
It's a religious holiday.
It is natural. God gave it to us. I should be able to smoke as many of these as I want today.
What do you mean I can't smoke as much weed as I want? It's a
course I
religious
can.
holiday.
It's absolutely fine.
This is a tragedy and a travesty.
And well, yeah, sure. I mean, you may get pot shamed by your mom, but that's her right to do that just as much as I think it's your right to smoke 30 joints on that day.
That's fair.
So, I mean, whatever. However
is
people want to spend that holiday.
Freedom's not always pretty.
I remember it was Christmas Eve many moon ago. I was a bartender, and I had to do the day shift on Christmas Eve. And then I had dinner at my parents' house that night. And the day shift on Christmas Eve at a Cajun restaurant in Manassas, Virginia, not like the kick and dime you think that's going to be. So it was me.
I've been to Manassas. I know what you're talking about.
It's me, the server that was working, and the day manager. And the three of us got obliterated together. I think we had like 3 customers all day long, and we got just wrecked that day. And after we closed up, we drank more. And then I went to my parents' house for Christmas Eve dinner, and I was super drunk. And I was just being drunk me. Just so everybody knows, if you don't know, I don't drink anymore. I stopped 6 years ago. But I show up and I'm being drunk me. And I remember my mom drink shaming me, as Will would say. And she said, Matt, you're too drunk to be here on Christmas Eve with your grandmother. And me, who was obviously very sober, responded with, Mom, if you think that's drunk, let me leave. I'll come back in a half an hour, and then you'll really see drunk.
And so will Grandma.
So I quit drinking.
That's good. We're glad that you're no longer scaring people's grandparents with your level of intoxication.
My
now you're scaring them with now you're scaring grandparents over something completely different.
Yeah, completely different.
Very valid reason. So here's a final one from Will McElveen.
Hey, guy on left and Spike Cohen. This is Will McElveen calling in on the personal injury attorney, Chris Reynolds, attorney at law, anchor call-in moment. Damn it, I will get that right. Anyway,
I think you just did.
Giving you a little update. I don't give a shit what anybody says in my family. I'm still going to smoke pot. I'm about to smoke a big fat joint right now because it's fucking Christmas and I can do that. Merry Christmas, guys. Enjoy it. Bye. Oh, wait. Whoa, shit. Hashtag guy on phone.
It's a religious holiday.
It is a religious holiday.
It's a religious holiday.
And I hope that Will McElveen?
Mm-hmm. McElveen.
I think it's McElveen. I hope that Will McElveen had a great Christmas.
Me too.
And I hope everybody had a great Christmas. This was one of the best Christmases I've ever had.
I know you knocked it out of the park with your Christmas. We had a fantastic Christmas too. So it was a good closing out of this incredibly interesting year. So here we go. Here is a question. We have some questions from Billy Pierce, my friend Billy Pierce out in Texas.
Billy Pierce actually helped me out a lot with the defense bill stuff.
Oh, cool. Very good.
So big shout out to Billy Pierce.
Shout out to Billy Pierce. Here we go with his first question.
Howdy, fellers. This is Billy Pierce from Houston, Texas. It's the end of the year, and as I sit here drinking a single malt Aberlour Abuna scotch, I'm getting a little nostalgic, but doing my end of the year review for myself.
I am now.
And the people closest to me. It's where I give myself some honest feedback and constructive criticism and highs and lows of the year. And do that for the people that are closest to me, professionally and personally, and ask them to do the same for me. So do you guys do this amongst the Muddied Waters media staff and folks and compatriots? And friends of the show and the organization, or do you guys just ignore each other and try not to say anything mean or nice? And how would you review yourselves? What kind of performance review would you give one another if you were handing them out? And how do you think you guys did this year? Talk to you soon.
So I don't think we sort of do a recap on a regular basis, sort of a debrief of how things are going.
Right.
Not like a strict performance review per se, but I guess that's what we're doing. We don't do it in like a structured, like we don't make a swap list or anything like that. Like,
Wait a minute, are you saying nothing about this is structured? I think they figured that out.
No, I would never say that this show isn't structured. Look, we have overlays.
We have amazing overlays and videos.
Look, we have it. Look, this is if Don Hicks calls in. We have serious. This is a serious August program here.
Yeah, this is cable level news here.
This is easily public access level, if not better. So
not better, right.
Write that down. But yeah, I'd
put that in your pipe and smoke it.
I would put that with your single malt Albalor Scotch, whatever you said, and drink it. I think we did pretty well this year. We easily got exponentially higher engagement than we've ever gotten ever. We have grown by leaps and bounds. Our audience is getting both bigger and more awesome every single episode. Y'all are amazing. And have done a fantastic job. I think we've done good. I ran for vice president. That was fun. We had episodes that had combined viewership of 1 million. I think we did well.
Yeah, I think honestly the fans did amazing.
Oh gosh, yeah, the fans are fantastic.
The fans did amazing. Anybody who has anything to do with Muddied Waters, I have zero complaint. I mean, Spike could have done a little more work. He kind of phoned it in this year.
Yes,
a little bit,
like literally on the phone sometimes.
Right.
I focused on traveling. I tried to make it. It was like a live, laugh, love thing.
No, honestly, the only person I would have any negative feedback for is myself, which I don't need to air anywhere. I just need to fix it and do it. But again, like Spike did amazing. Jason was awesome, as Jason always is.
Jason is amazing.
That Jason, let me just say this. Jason Lyon is an inspiration to anybody who knows it. And if you haven't realized that Jason Lyon is an inspiration, that's because you aren't paying close enough attention.
Yeah.
Jason Lyon is by far one of the most inspiring people I have ever met in my entire life. And to be able to call him a friend and a brother and somebody that works with us here at Muddied Waters is a true honor.
Yep. It's an absolute honor. And I am grateful for us to be his friend and his partner and colleague in all of this. He's fantastic. And I hope someone tells him that we said that.
He did. He's in the comments right now.
Oh. Perfect.
I didn't know he was. But no, I am actually honored to have Jason here with us, working on this, helping build this. Yeah. But yeah, I don't think we've ever really had like the end of the year review where we said, okay, we need to work on this, because honestly, we all work as hard as we possibly can to make this great, on top of everything else that we have to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think this has always been a labor of love. And there's certainly times where we're like, hey, we should try doing this, or we should do this better, or maybe we don't need to do that anymore. But it's always from a standpoint of, hey, let's try this as opposed to this sucks, or, we have to do this, because we've always treated it as something that we want to enjoy. We don't make a living off of it. We get some money from it. It helps pay for itself for the most part, puts a couple bucks in our pockets for the most, but it's like, it's not something, at least now, maybe in the future, but it's nothing we can live off of, so it has to be enjoyable. We can't burn out doing this. And so we've made a point of, hey, let's have fun doing this. Let's make this an enjoyable thing. And I think that shows in what we're doing. It shows on these shows. It shows on the memes that we post. It shows in the stuff that we do in our Facebook group. Be sure to go to the Muddy Waters Facebook group and join. So it shows in what we do. And we have a lot of fun. And it shows in so many ways. And
okay. I'm okay.
So yes, we have fun, like we're having now. We're having fun. So yes, that's the answer to that.
Yes.
And we love Jason. Oh, someone asked about Matt Hicks. Matt Hicks is fantastic. We love Matt Hicks too. Even though I guess he's not officially part of Muddy Waters, he's part of Muddy Waters. Caitlin Cloven says, I'd like to file a complaint. Actually, how does one do that? You don't.
Yeah. You can send it. You can send us a message to our Facebook business page, and one of us might look at it.
Yeah. And maybe not.
You have a better chance of us looking at it if you leave a grilled cheese recipe.
You have only a chance of, there's
Accurate.
only chance you have is if you also posted grilled cheese recipe, because that's the rules. That's what it says. So here's another, we have a few from Billy. Here's the next one from Billy Pierce, who, by the way, ran a fantastic campaign for theft commissioner in, I forget the county name, in Texas, but I actually,
he's going to tell you.
Oh, good.
I've already listened to these.
Howdy, fellers. Billy Pierce from Houston, Texas here. Amongst all of the other crazy things I did this year, I ran for office, for a county office here, Harris County Tax Assessor Collector.
Harris County.
As the Libertarian Party nominee. And I sit on the executive committee for our county affiliate in the third largest county in the country. And over the course of running for office, I became exposed and aware to all the many caucuses within the party.
Yes.
The Waffle House caucus, the Mises caucus, the Radical caucus, I haven't been exposed to this much caucus since I was in the Navy. And I don't really know what to do with all of them. So what do you think the role of the caucuses, or caucus, what do you think the role of these caucus affiliates are, and how important are they, and how important it is to align with them or not align with one or multiple of them? What do you do with all this caucus?
Well, my question...
Well, we now have a new Big Black Mike caucus.
We do. Whatever you did with them in the Navy, that's what you should continue doing with them now. You could just no judgment either. No judgment, no matter what the answer is. Just whatever you did with them in the Navy.
It's your body. It's your caucuses. You do what you want. No, listen, the purpose of a caucus within a political party is for people with a common goal, common mindset, common values to come together and to try to work together to essentially coalition and advocate for the changes they want within not just that political party structure and its values and its culture, but also in how it spreads the message to others, and also works to, hopefully, to try to actually get libertarians or members of that party elected. I myself am a member of quite a few caucuses. I'm the founder of the Waffle House Caucus. I am the appointed chair of the Smoked Salmon Caucus. I am in the Mises Caucus. I am in the Radical Caucus. And I am in the, what's the other one? Oh, I'm in the Psychedelic Caucus, and I'm positive I'm forgetting something. So I'm in a few of the caucuses, and I have friendly relations with the Pragmatic Caucus, the Audacious Caucus, all of the various caucuses that are in there. There's not really, I don't know offhand of a caucus that I reject outright. I think it's one thing to come together on common values and goals and try to push forward.
Yep.
And another thing to make your caucus your only ally and all of the other caucuses the enemy. And that happens from time to time. I don't know of a caucus where everyone's doing that, but there are certainly individual members of different caucuses that see it that way. Our caucus is the only one that really, has the Libertarian Party and the Libertarian movement's best interest. Everyone else must be stopped or must be crushed under our boot or whatever. It's not good. I think one bad effect of the caucuses is that people forget that we agree on like 85% to 90% of things, especially when it comes to actual like government policy. There is so much less difference between someone who's a member of the Mises Caucus and someone who's a member of the Audacious Caucus than one would think, even though they are often in bitter opposition to one another, or the members are often in bitter opposition to one another. The reality is, if you were to ask a member of each caucus what their position was on a given subject, probably 9 times out of 10, they'd say roughly the same thing. And I think we need to remember that. Yes, it's cool to get into our different groups and to try to push forward and to try to affect the change, cultural and values changes we want to see in the party, and to push forward our ideas for how to help spread that message outside of the party to everyone else. But I think we need not lose the forest for the trees. That's my personal opinion. The reason that I'm popular within so many caucuses is because I have gone into them with an eye towards coalition building, that we agree on so much. Let's focus on that. And let's focus on how we can work together. There will be plenty of time for us to argue over what we disagree on after we have taken control from the Republicans and Democrats and given the power back to the people. Then we can start arguing over what I personally think are largely petty differences that really don't matter when the government is currently exponential, or not exponentially, but rapidly growing in every single aspect of our lives. I think that's that's where we should be focusing our fire on. That's my opinion.
And personally, the only 2 caucuses that matter are the Waffle House Caucus and the Trashy Prom Caucus.
Oh gosh, Trashy Prom Caucus. How did I forget the Trashy Prom Caucus?
Those are the only 2. Because everything Spike said is correct, except that the Waffle House Caucus and the Trashy Prom Caucus, which really, what trashy prom doesn't end at Waffle House?
I was going to say that's kind of, there's a lot of synergism there between the 2 caucus.
It's basically
the same. So here is another one from Billy.
Howdy, fellers. Billy Pierce from Houston, Texas again. Amongst all the other crazy things that I do in my spare time, I teach an economics class and formerly a government class to a group of high school homeschoolers here in the Harris County and Houston area. And an interesting thing came up in conversation, talking about the Fifth Amendment and how it relates to economics in the current times. And the question is, do the closings of businesses all over our county, do the closings of businesses by the government constitute a taking under the takings clause of the Fifth Amendment? And if so, do they warrant compensation by the government, even though that compensation would have to be stolen from private citizens first? But is this a taking? And does it warrant compensation? And could we look at stimulus or money going out as a taking?
So I'm actually go ahead, Matt, because I'm actually pulling up the exact wording in the Fifth Amendment. But go ahead.
Okay. So the takings clause essentially says that the government is not allowed to take your private property from you without just compensation.
Right.
Something along those lines. I don't remember the exact wording of it. I spoke with a certain attorney.
A certain attorney who may or may not be the sponsor of the personal injury attorney, Chris Reynolds, attorney at law.
He may look exactly like that picture.
He may be someone that if you are looking for a personal injury attorney in the greater Tampa Bay area of Florida, you can go to chrisreynoldslaw.com today to get the compensation and the help that you need.
And the initial text that I sent him was, what's your opinion on government shutdowns of businesses falling under a Fifth Amendment violation under the Takings Clause?
Yeah.
To which he responded, it's a terrible and seriously flawed analysis of that clause. The founders would have never been okay with that. They wanted government to stay out of the lives of citizens unless absolutely necessary, like housing soldiers during war. Definitely not because a business is struggling, so let's have the government repurpose it. It's ridiculous. If the government thinks they need that power, amend the Constitution. Don't come up with some garbage rationale that's the Takings Clause, garbage rationale that the Takings Clause gives power that the clause clearly does not. Just more judicial legislation. And I said, sorry, I meant, is it a violation of the Takings Clause? And he goes, yes, it absolutely is.
Okay, so Chris would say that this is would constitute taking.
Because if you're thinking about what the government's doing is you have your private business, you have your private property, which is the business. You also have the private property of whatever money would be coming in from the business, whatever product would be coming in from the business. And they are now saying, no, you cannot have any of that. They are literally taking all of that from you. So yes, this would fall under the Takings Clause.
So here is the actual Fifth Amendment, and I guess I don't have to read the whole thing, but there's many different things that are covered under this. It's most famous as, I plead the Fifth, because it says no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia, when in actual service in time of war or public danger. Nor shall any person be subject to, for the same offense, to be put twice be put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled in a criminal case to be a witness against himself. That's the biggest part, is I plead the Fifth. I don't have to testify against myself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. So there are many different things in there. Specifically, what we're talking about is that private property cannot be taken for public use without just compensation. Shutting down and seizing a business for the public use of, protecting people
or the
from
public lack of use.
But here's the thing: if it's taken from someone and then seized because they can't pay their taxes, and then now it's owned by the government for them to do what they want with it, that's a quote-unquote publicly use, or at least a government seizing. The interesting part, and this is why I pulled up the Fifth Amendment, I was pretty sure that the Fifth Amendment never actually specifically notes the federal government. It doesn't. It's not just saying the feds can't do this to you. It's saying no one can do this to you. So, yeah. And the fact that a pretty good attorney we know said that it would qualify as taking. Lends for me to say that it's taking.
That was actually the last question I listened to. I haven't listened to any of the others. Okay. But I listened to that question the other day because I'd kind of like to know what I'm about to get into. Matt Hicks have just stopped because I now understand what I'm going to get into. But with other people, I kind of want to be a little bit prepared, know if I should delete things. We've only ever had to delete one. But so I listened to that one, and I thought about that for a while. I did the same thing Spike did. I looked up the Fifth Amendment. I read it, made my own opinion on it. Then I asked Chris what he thought, and he agreed with what I initially thought. So yeah, it does. It does. They are taking your personal property or your hope of making your personal property. So is just compensation due? Yeah, even if it does come from the taxpayers, yes. based on what the Constitution says.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Kenneth Ebel asks, is the how would taxes not fall under this? Aren't they technically taking your property? Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course they are. Now, they would argue that the just compensation is the services that you get for it. But more importantly, in the Constitution, under the tax and spending clause, it says Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. But that all of those duties, imposts, and excises shall be uniform throughout the United States. So you can't charge a higher tax to Kansas than you do to South Carolina or to California. Those individual states can have higher tax rates, but the federal government has to charge everyone based on the same thing. Now, I would argue that a progressive income tax is not uniformity, but that's a whole other subject. So that was that. And then here's the next one from Billy.
Howdy, fellers. Billy Pierce from Houston, Texas here. This time of year, I sit down and write a letter to the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, and I also write a letter to the county judge of Harris County, Lena Hidalgo. And in reviewing this year's performance, their performance as governors, I noticed a couple of things that I actually liked and wanted to run it by you. We've actually had some easing of some of the licensing restrictions regarding portability of medical licensing and nursing licensing and things like that. Okay. And some easing on some of the old blue laws, specifically those related to the consumption and sale of alcoholic beverages, takeaway licenses, being able to sell things to go, things like that. How do y'all reckon we convince government to let us keep these instead of taking their power back and charging us for the pleasure? What do you think?
I mean, it's better that it's slightly less restrictive than it was, but we don't believe that government should be licensing anything.
Right. Government shouldn't be licensing these things. I think the question is, how do we convince them not to do that? And as long as Benjamin Harris just said in the comments, government licensing is racketeering. And yes, it is.
Yep. Yes. Protection racket. Yeah.
All of government is racketeering. For like speeding tickets, racketeering. Yeah. Yep. Like DUIs at 0.08, that's fundraising. Like it's fundraising.
Anytime government is coming to you, anytime anyone, including government, is coming to you and saying, hey, if you don't give us money, we're going to make things tough for you.
Right.
That's racketeering. That's a protection racket. That's a protection racket.
You can do this if you give me money.
Yeah.
Racketeering.
Otherwise, we're not going to let you. And if you try to do it anyway, you're going to have trouble. That's racketeering.
Yep.
That is, and any of these definitions for racketeering or whatever, they always put, non-government, meaning that, if government does it, it's suddenly okay. But by any real common sense definition of these terms, what they do is racketeering. Right. And it should end. And it doesn't do any good, and it's always used against those with the least power. When you put a license, when you say you have to pay X amount of money to be able to go into a certain type of business, the less money you have, the more disproportionately high of a barrier that is, okay? So if you make this much per year, and I make this much per year, and the barrier for being able to get into this business is this much, it sucks that I have to pay that, but I can afford it. If you're down here, you've got to try to save up to pay that. You're more than likely not going to be able to pay that, so you either have to abandon doing that and just work for someone else, or you do it illegally and hope that the police don't come and take everything from you for doing it illegally, which they probably will eventually. That's why a government should not be involved in licensing. It keeps people in generational poverty. It protects the entrenched business interests that don't want more competitors, and it makes things more expensive for you because you have fewer competitive choices to choose from. The only people that benefit are the cronies and the politicians. You lose, everyone loses except for them. Taxation is theft. Billy Pierce, 2022, if he runs for something. We have one more question from Billy regarding Robinhood.
Howdy, fellers. Billy Pierce from Houston, Texas here. I've moved on to less expensive whiskey because if you're going to have 4 or 5 of them, why waste the expensive stuff? And I'm reading the SEC filing and the SEC charges against Robinhood Financial that were released earlier this month. And I can't sort out, is this the SEC actually trying to protect consumers from bad practices, or is this just the SEC and the government at large protecting their crony favorites and assuming that the consumer, the American public, is too stupid to understand things and enter into a contract of their own desire, saying, oh, no, you're too dumb. We have to protect you from yourself. Or did Robinhood really actually do something worth censure? Sort this out for me. What do you think?
So I think it's mostly the latter. I think it is mostly that Robinhood, and for those who don't know, Robinhood is it's a company that they have an app that makes it a lot easier for people who aren't used to investing to be able to invest in the stock market and in crypto and in some other things as well. And I think actually just the stock market and crypto. I don't think you can get into futures contracts, but what it also does is it makes it so that you can automatically have a certain percentage of your money that you're spending in your account go into like the interest, like the difference in the whole numbers. So if you have some change left over, it rounds it up and invests that into it. And there's some things like that. What I'm seeing here is it's claiming that. So basically, here's the problem, and this happens a lot. The SEC went after Robinhood. Robinhood agreed to pay a $65 million civil, not criminal, but civil penalty. But part of it is that they don't have to admit or deny the findings, but they're also not allowed to respond other than a prepared statement that the SEC signs off on. So you're getting the story from the SEC. Raise your hand if you can figure out why that's a problem. Here's what the SEC said. Between 2015 and late 2018, Robinhood made misleading statements and omissions in customer communications, including in FAQ pages on its website, about its largest revenue source when describing how it made money, namely payments from trading firms in exchange for Robinhood sending its customer orders to those firms for execution, also known as payment for order flow. One of Robinhood's selling points to customers was that trading was commission-free, but due in large part to its unusually high payment for order flow rates, Robinhood customers' orders were executed at prices that were inferior to other brokers' prices. If it is true that Robinhood was, and this is a big if it is true that Robinhood was claiming that there were no commission fees, but that the reality was that they were paying fees. We won't call them commissions, but they were paying fixed fees to these brokerage firms that amounted to the firms getting more money out of the transaction than would have been gotten in a traditional structure, a traditional fee-based or commission-based structure. Then yeah, that's misleading, and even in a libertarian sense, that would be considered fraudulent statements. It's a big if, because there are so many times that government alleges this kind of stuff, and companies just decide to not fight it and to pay the $65 million so they can keep going forward and keep being allowed to do business, especially if they're not required to admit to any wrongdoing. I don't know what to tell you. I honestly don't know what to tell you. Payment for order flow is actually common, so I'm not sure why they wouldn't say that. And it's technically not a commission, so I don't know. It's definitely, it's a little murky, but I also think it would be better if the government wasn't involved to begin with, because we'd have far more options in the trading sphere, and you would, instead of having a Robinhood that is able to, perfect example, Robinhood is able to afford to pay this and be able to keep going. Many other smaller firms are not, which means you are restricted in the ability of who is able to provide you with these services to who can afford to basically pay off the government for the permission to continue doing it, which means you have fewer choices to choose from, which means you have less competition, which means they instantly don't have to be as accountable. Because if they had more competitors, they'd have to be more accountable because they'd lose your business potentially. So I think it's back. I think typically, you know, once again, government getting involved makes things worse.
Yep. Sure.
So that was the.
I had to talk to somebody from Time Code Productions about something, so I missed half of what you said.
No problem.
So I'm just gonna agree.
By the way, big shout out to Time Code.
Big shout out to Time Code
Studio
Productions.
Space. Yep.
Yeah, no, let me use the studio space here in between my studio spaces. Great guys that work here. The awards that are up behind me, they recently won for a short film. Yeah, they've done a lot of great short films. They do work with different real estate agents. They've made commercials for people. They do. It's basically a one-stop shop for any video need that you may have. Great guys, hardworking guys. So if you have any video need, go to timecodeproduction.com.
Timecodeproduction.com. So that was the final Chris Reynolds segment of the year. How about that? And speaking of such, 2020, it started literally with a bang. Hopefully does not end in a bang.
It did.
We have a series of the headlines that were the most eye-catching.
Legitimately, I took headlines for this.
Yeah, like these are literal headlines that we focused on, and reading through these, it's insane. These all happened this year.
These all happened this year, and some of them you may not have even heard about because all anybody talked about was the election and Corona. That was it. That was absolutely it.
But all these other things happened too.
So let's take a walk through memory lane on 2020.
We started the year pretty close to the beginning of the year, or in January. World War III almost broke out World War III almost broke out in January after the assassination of Iranian Army General Qasem Soleimani via a airstrike in an Iraqi civilian airport on the 3rd of January. The Iranians responded by firing missiles without any targets into empty areas to show that they could fire missiles, and that pretty much ended it. And we actually predicted that something like that would happen, that Iran would have to make some kind of show of strength, but that it couldn't be too big of one because they didn't want to actually start a war, and that the U.S. would probably let it go because they also didn't want to start a war. And that was what was going to happen, and that is in fact what happened.
That's right. Ukrainian International Airlines flight PS752 was shot down by Iranian military.
I completely forgot about that.
There was so much in this I forgot about.
I completely forgot about that. The wildfires swept through Australia. I think we all briefly remember before the world ended with the pandemic with COVID, all the heartbreaking images of the near extinction of koala bears and other wildlife in Australia. Koala bears being one of the few wildlife in Australia that don't try to kill you unless you get close to them.
Yeah.
And really only because they're sedated from the eucalyptus.
Oh, don't make that joke. Okay, don't. Good. Kobe Bryant passed away in a helicopter crash with his daughter.
That was this year.
Yeah, that was this year. That was in January of this year.
President Trump was acquitted on articles of impeachment, abuse of power, and obstruction of Congress. And you can tell because no one changed their mind on it.
Yeah, it did not change a single voter's mind about anything.
0% of people.
This one, I don't remember.
I don't think we covered this one.
We did not cover it. We definitely didn't cover it, but I don't even remember hearing about it because this was right about the time that COVID was starting to kick into high gear around the world. But for anybody who doesn't know, a fucking star disappeared. For 2 decades, astronomers studied a star in a galaxy 75 million light years away. And when they looked at the latest observations, they couldn't find it anymore, and they still haven't. They think that possibly it's the first star, because it didn't supernova. They think it was potentially the first star to get swallowed by a black hole.
A whole ass star. Just disappeared.
Just gone.
That's arguably scarier than COVID.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also equally scary was Tiger King. So right around the time that we all decided we were going to stay home for 2 weeks to slow the spread, which then became the entire year, Netflix treated us to the perfect storm of a story about meth and tigers and people on meth who were playing with tigers, and a libertarian. Just the one. The rest of them were absolutely not libertarian. Although that guy in Florida, that the Cuban guy in Florida, he seemed kind of libertarian. But other than that, no, total dumpster fire. But it was entertaining. That bitch Carol Baskins. Baskins.
She's on Dancing with the Stars now.
Yeah.
Now, Harvey Weinstein, he got sent to prison for 23 years for raping. He's probably going to be in there until the day he died. Did he get out for COVID, actually? Before I double down on everything.
Hold on. Harvey Weinstein so they thought that he had COVID. He was in isolation with 101 degree temperature, but it turned out that he did not have COVID, but his health is still declining. And that was the last thing. There was a delay in granting his extradition earlier this month. But he's still, he's in jail. He's in a New York prison. So yeah, no, he's not going in. They're not going to let him out.
Yeah. I didn't think, I wanted to make sure before, it's New York. Who knows? They're putting people in rest homes that have COVID. They're taking people out of prisons because of COVID. Who knows? Yeah. But yeah, Harvey Weinstein was sent to prison for being literally one of, if not the biggest piece of crap in Hollywood.
Yeah. Tom Hanks got COVID.
Speaking got COVID. Yeah. Biggest, at the time, the biggest name to get COVID. And everybody thought Tom Hanks was going to die. And he quarantined himself in Australia.
Yeah.
And then he ended up surviving. And suddenly it became a lot less scary to a lot of people. Just not the government. Murder Hornets. They were a sponsor of our show for
we used to be. This show was very briefly sponsored by Murder Hornets for a couple times. Yeah, they weren't a good sponsor. They didn't give us any money. They just said they wouldn't. They'd murder us last. Yeah, this sponsor, they said if you put us on, we'll murder you last.
Right. And they've been holding up to it.
So far, not murdered.
Not murdered.
But apparently no one has been murdered by them in the U.S. So a little bit of an overblown threat there. But George Floyd, unfortunately, was murdered. He was killed by Derek Chauvin. over a alleged phony $20 bill.
Right. And personally, I think that George Floyd should have been Time's Person of the Year. I believe that George Floyd was responsible for the most amount of news because I could be completely wrong here.
Of any single person, yeah.
But I think that George Floyd, the murder of George Floyd by Derek Chauvin, brought about all of the BLM riots. It brought the autonomous zone over in Seattle and the one in Portland. You started seeing people fighting for Breonna Taylor. Even though Breonna Taylor happened before this, George Floyd was kind of the catalyst that brought everything out. And arguably because of, Antifa showing up to these things, that was what made Trump say Antifa is now a terrorist organization. So are the anarchists. I think George Floyd should have been Person of the Year.
I mean, that's a compelling case. I do know that every election year, Time picks whoever won presidency. This time they picked Joe Biden and Kamala Harris because no one likes Joe Biden. And they're already trying to sell Kamala Harris for probably 2024. And hoping that you either don't know or forget that she was one of the most brutal prosecutors in recent memory. But that's a whole other subject. Oh, gosh, I forgot about this one. So Poland, it's like a Polish joke. Poland invaded Czech Republic accidentally. They accidentally invaded. They invaded and briefly occupied territory in the Czech Republic. They stopped locals from entering a church in their own country. The misunderstanding was quickly cleared up and the Polish army retreated. They thought they were in Poland, even though everything was written in Czech. Their GPS, I'm trying to remember this story. It was either their GPS or their maps were malfunctioning or not working or something like that, or they weren't on. And so they ended just like a mile or two inside of Poland, Czech Republic. But they stopped people from going places until they could figure out what the hell was going on. They set up an outpost to stop vehicles. And the fact that the signs were all in Czech and everyone was speaking Czech
did not raise any flags.
Did not concern them remotely that maybe they weren't in Poland.
Right.
Especially when people started yelling, "We're in the Czech Republic," but unfortunately, they were yelling it in Czech.
Yep. Jason Lyon says they didn't do Trump in 16. I'm assuming he's talking about Time Magazine. Yes, they did. They did Trump in 16. He was Person of the Year that year, and they had him positioned. I believe he was sitting facing the opposite way of what you see me facing, but they had him lined up where the M in Time made it look like he had devil horns.
Oh, that's funny.
I believe that was...
Yeah. I'm going to pull that up because that is funny.
Yeah, I believe that was 2000. I know they did it to him. I don't remember. I think that was 2016.
Yeah, no, that was 2016. That is extremely petty and funny at the same time.
Right.
Here's that image. I'm pulling it up right now. So that you can see it. Yeah, I mean that's petty as hell. Like that's super. It's funny too, but it's petty.
Yeah, it was subtle little dig at him, but yes, he was Person of the Year 2016. The Pentagon released 3 UFO tapes, and nobody cared.
No one cared. And then recently when a freaking Israeli general who used to be the head of the Israeli space program said
space security program
said that the world governments were in touch with the Galactic Federation and were just waiting for a good time to tell us. No one cared about that either.
No one cared about that either.
And when freaking monoliths just started being discovered all over the place and no one knew where they came from, we still don't know where they came from. No one cared about that either. We are so unfazed that the possibility of an alien invasion at this point seems like a welcome reprieve. It's just amazing. What else? So Kim Jong-un died, but then he didn't.
Yeah, he was dead for like a week.
Yeah.
He was dead for like a week. Everybody thought his sister was gonna take over, or I think his sister, maybe cousin.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, his sister. His sister.
Sister. Yeah. And then
he undied.
He undied. He came back to life. Some people may not know this, but personally for me, the weirdest piece of news was Spike Cohen got nominated VP for the Libertarian Party. Totally had forgotten. You would think I would have known that, but totally had forgotten that Spike Cohen ran for VP, that he got nominated by the Libertarian Party. That one was always my favorite.
I liked it. I would briefly show it because the campaign hated it.
Did they really?
I would be like, oh, brought to you by Joe. Oh, I mean, brought to you by. Yes, I'd do that. Yeah. So I was the vice presidential nominee for the third largest political party in the United States of America, and I came in third. So I got that going for me.
Which is nice.
I am the first millennial to be on a national ticket. I am the first millennial to ever get to be on all 50 states. I am the first millennial to get over 1 million votes. Take that, AOC. And in fact, I got like almost 9 times as many votes as AOC. Now that was national, and she's in a single congressional district, but it's got 9 times as many.
Hey, take the win.
I'm just saying. So anyway, yeah. So it was a lot of fun, and we learned a lot of lessons about what to do and what not to do. And the biggest thing I learned from it is that we need to grow the Libertarian Party, and that's what I'm focusing on now. So very, very exciting stuff. Another big news item was A12. How do you pronounce that?
Kyle. That is Kyle Musk. Elon Musk and his baby mama. I don't know what that relation is. They named their child Kyle, spelled the most bizarre way. Now, actually, the way that I have it in here, which is the X and then the AE.
The AE symbol, yeah.
AE symbol and then A12.
Yeah.
A-12. That's not the child's given name, because in California, there is a law that you cannot name people numbers. So instead, it's X, AE symbol, A-XII.
Sure. Pronounce Kyle. Listen, when you're a multi-billionaire giant of industry, you can name your kid whatever you want. It's not going to negatively affect. Well, people. I remember hearing someone go, "Well, I guess that's going to be tough for them to get a job." No, they're Elon Musk's kid. Son, right? It's a son.
Son.
Okay.
Well, Kyle, I'm assuming. I mean, I don't want to assume.
Anyway, Elon Musk's offspring, I don't think we'll have to worry about getting a job. So don't go and name your kid this based on that.
Unless you are literally Elon Musk watching this right now.
Then
you can do whatever you want.
Yes.
Jeff Bezos, you can name your kid anything you want.
Yeah, if you are worth $1 billion or more, you can just probably name your kid whatever you want. Everyone else, maybe think twice about it.
Right.
Water was discovered on the moon. I didn't even remember this.
Yeah, water was discovered on the moon, and I know that they are now using that information to try to set up like some sort of base, international base or something, so that way people can stay there and then launch on. There was an explosion in. Wow. Jonathan Traumer spelled it water with a V, for the A.
Yeah.
Like black coffee.
Like black, yeah.
An explosion in Beirut killed at least 204 people earlier this year. I know we reported on that briefly back when that happened. Awful news. Don't know if they ever actually figured anything out about that. That one just sort of.
I think that they.
That one was one of the ones that kind of disappeared after it had, like, everybody freaked out about it, and it was huge news, and they're like, oh, was this because was it terrorism? Was it because it was a plant of some kind? I can't remember. And then COVID and the election were happening, so suddenly nobody even thought about it anymore.
Yeah, I think that they determined that it had something to do with unstable chemicals or something like that. It was a boat filled with ammonium nitrate, I believe.
Yeah.
Large
Kenneth
amount of
Ebel is saying, forgot about explosives that it had.
Yeah. So they don't, know, but it killed 204 people, caused 6,500 injuries, $15 billion in property damage, and left an estimated 300,000 people homeless because it just wrecked buildings, left and like made them unlivable. Just an absolute. It was the equivalent of 1.1 kilotons of TNT, making it more powerful than the I believe making that more powerful than the Fat Man and Little Boy. Let me look that up. No, I was wrong. It's less than the AIR-2 Genie nuclear warhead, but Fat Man and Little Boy were more explosive. But I mean, this was right in the center of downtown, on the port. Incredible. It's terrible thing. So, and then possibly one of the most disastrous things of all, Sean Connery died, and then nothing else mattered. And then Alec Trebek died.
Oh yeah, I should have put that in there. You're right. Yeah, once I got to the Sean Connery death, it was just like nothing matters after that. Now, Sean Connery, everybody has their favorite Sean Connery moment. There's so many good ones. Like maybe Bond might be where you first started watching him. Yeah. Perhaps as Indiana Jones' dad in The Last Crusade.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
classic.
Yeah.
First thing I saw him in, I think, was The Untouchables. It was The Untouchables or Indiana Jones. I don't remember which one was the first.
That was good too, yeah.
And in The Untouchables, he was fantastic. He won an Academy Award for that one. But it was one line in The Rock that made me love Sean Connery forever. And he and Nick Cage are talking, and they're getting ready to storm The Rock. And he looks at Nick Cage and he says something along the lines of, are you ready? Are you ready? And Nick Cage is like, I'll do my best. And Sean looks at him. Oh, Hunt for Red October. That's a good call, Derek. That was a great movie. That was a great movie.
Hunt for Red October was good.
Darby O'Gill and the Little People. So Wes Erikson bringing it back. Wow, that is an old one right there. But he looks at Nick Cage and he goes, losers always whine about doing their best. Winners go home and fuck the prom queen. And I remember hearing that line for the first time. And I was just like, this guy's the most amazing person who's ever lived. Most amazing.
Family Business. With Sean Connery, Dustin Hoffman, and Matthew Broderick. Where they were a family of thieves.
Oh, I'd never saw this movie.
Family Business.
Business.
It was like an 80s movie.
Okay.
It's good. It was good. It was a good.
I'm gonna have to check. Yeah, I'll check that one out. I like everybody.
I was gonna tell you what happens, but that'd be like a major spoiler alert.
I've never heard of this movie. It's really good. At the end,
he redeems himself by watch the movie. It's good. That was pretty much
2020, and I mean COVID and the election. But we know that everybody knows that.
And of course,
we still report on that every day.
Well, yeah, and I mean, there was no point to mentioning that because everyone already knew that. And of course, one of the major things that happened this year is my mic died. But thankfully, you too can own this piece of history. Really, only one of you can, unless you want to do some kind of co-op sharing thing. That's between y'all. I don't care. But we are auctioning it off right here. Whoever gets the highest bid in the comments will be the official winner of this microphone, which I will personalize and sign for you. And which, again, I'm told might actually be able to get fixed if someone knows how to fix these little connecting thingies here. Then you can have a microphone that was signed by me and works for the low, low price of whatever the highest bid is. Our highest bid is currently... What are we at?
The highest bid that we have without any stipulations or addendums added to it, I think, is just 140.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we can't do addendums and stipulations because that just creates a whole thing. So we got 140. 140 is the highest bid. Whoever bids higher than 140 will be the person who is in line to get this now. So if you want it and you have more than $140, I have some fantastic news for you. So we'll let the bidding continue on that. We're going to do our final segment now and talk about someone who should have been home, not just for this Christmas, but for many Christmases. His name is Ross Ulbricht.
Yeah.
Ross made a website called Silk Road, which was similar to eBay. It was a bidding auction site where you could purchase anything that you wanted, provided that it didn't violate the NAP. Basically, it could not be anything violent. And in addition to that, Ross didn't allow the selling of weapons. Even though that doesn't violate the NAP, he was a pacifist and he didn't believe in weaponry, and so he said no selling weapons. But anything else was on the table, which meant and he used Bitcoin. That was the way that things were bought and sold on Silk Road, was with Bitcoin, which made it largely untraceable, and it allowed people to anonymously and safely procure things that often weren't legal. Instead of having to go out on the streets to get those things, they could order them from the comfort of their home and have them delivered to their house. And that allowed things to be a lot safer and a lot better for everyone involved. And it was no one's business because there weren't victims in these transactions. The government a few years ago I think 2013, arrested Ross. They alleged that he had taken out hits on people, even though they had no evidence of that he had done that. And just to prove that that was all a smear, they immediately dropped those charges once it went to trial because they knew that they had nothing for it. There were multiple examples of judicial abuse in his trial. His judges were not allowed to call most of their witnesses. Almost all of their objections were overruled. The courts were allowed to introduce irrelevant circumstantial evidence and things that weren't proven, things that were obtained illegally. Two of the main witnesses for the, I believe, FBI or ATF, I forget which agency, or maybe it was DEA. It was DEA, actually. One of those agencies, two of their biggest witnesses turned out to be on the take, and yet that testimony was not thrown out, and they weren't allowed to mention the fact that they had been put on the take to the jurors. It was just a travesty of a trial. And if you ask me, the reason that they grabbed him was because he was sitting on what is now billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin. And they wanted the Bitcoin, and they wanted to make an example out of him. If we used the same justification for why they popped Ross Ulbricht, because keep in mind, Ross himself never actually sold anything illegal. It was the website where things happened that were illegal. He just had a platform. If we applied that same standard to Facebook or to YouTube or to Twitter or Instagram or any other social media site or to eBay or any other e-commerce site, almost all of them, they could get in trouble for the fact that stuff was being sold illegally on their platforms. He just created the platform. Yep. He did not encourage anyone to do anything illegal. There were things on there that were perfectly legal as well. And he was basically he had his good name destroyed in the public. People thought that, to this day, when we bring it up, people go, "Didn't he hire a hitman to kill people?" No, there's no evidence of that. There never was. One of his supposed victims, one of the supposed marks that were going to be killed, and no one was ever killed, just to prove it. One of his supposed victims that was going to get killed has said from day one that he never thought that any of this was true, or that Ross or anyone else tried to have him killed. They think it was all nonsense that the government used to frame Ross and to smear his name to the public. And we believe that he should get a pardon, or at the very least a commutation, so that he can go home.
So I know that the odds of President Trump watching this is relatively small.
Somewhat low.
Yeah, somewhat low. Even though Spike did run against him. Figured he might want to check up, see, what the competition's doing.
I was briefly his running mate in...
You were in Michigan.
In Michigan for the better part of a few days. So, might check in on the show.
So, we would like everybody to tweet to President Trump in the nicest way, in the most polite way.
Yes.
We make fun of Trump a lot. We make fun of everybody a lot on this show, but we want everybody to tweet to President Trump, because we know that that's the easiest way to get a hold of him, and literally ask in the most polite, kind, without malice way possible, please, will you pardon or commute the sentence of Ross Ulbricht? Please.
Yes. Yep. Hashtag free Ross Ulbricht. And let's try to get him home. One thing I will tell you is that I have a short list of the things that I would immediately do if I were part of an administration, or if libertarians got elected, that I would call for them to immediately do. And one of them in that short list is pardon Ross Ulbricht. Pardon and commute the sentences of anyone tried in federal crimes for victimless crimes, but Ross Ulbricht especially. He would be one of the first ones to be getting it. He should not be there. And he has been an upstanding citizen in the prison. He has helped people learn to read. He has been a part of, I believe, a Bible study group. I mean, this is someone who is I don't remember now if it was a Bible study or a reading club, but here he is. He's been railroaded in a kangaroo court. He's in prison for the rest of his life, and he's helping people, just like he did with his website.
Right, which is all he was trying to do.
It's all he was trying to do. And yes, he was trying to make money doing it. But that was, he did not live in a lavish lifestyle. He did not live keep in mind, Bitcoin back in the time was fractions of a penny on the dollar what they're worth now. So it was worth, I think, tens of millions back then, but he also wasn't the only, he was one of the creators. He wasn't the only one. I don't think he thought, I'm going to become a billionaire. I think he thought, I'm going to provide a way for people to be able to safely get the things that they want and need without the government snooping on their business. And there is nothing wrong with that. That is morally fine. We don't believe that he should be in jail. We don't believe he ever should have been in jail. And when libertarians are put in office in the White House, that will be one of the first actions that we take, is to free Ross and people like Ross. Because for every Ross, there's many more whose stories we don't know as well. But they equally deserve to be free. So hashtag free Ross Ulbricht.
Now, we've had a couple of bids. Jim Lee says 150.
Okay, 150.
DVSV Flood over on the Tube of You says 169.
Nice.
169. Nice. So right now, if DVSV Flood over on YouTube is serious and wants to send $169 to muddiedwatersmedia@gmail.com via PayPal, You will be the winner of Spike's Big Black Mike.
Well, nope, new one. Jimmy Lee has upped his bid to $175.
$175 from Jimmy Lee, who I want to say Jim Lee. One, I found out he used to be a DJ for a number of years.
Yep.
Dude has a radio voice. Has a radio voice. And he is he's a big member. He is a big member of the MeWe group. The Muddied Waters MeWe group. And I could probably make him an admin of that group at this point because he keeps the conversation going.
Jim is amazing. I got to meet him twice in Ohio. I met him in July in Columbus at the Ohio Convention. That's where I first met him and his wife. And then got to see them again in Ohio when I did the Waffle House Whistle Stop tour. And he went to a few of my stops. I think he joined me. I want to say he joined me in Cincinnati or just outside of Cincinnati and went through all the way through to Columbus. And he wasn't at the last one or two stops, but he was at a good number of them. Yeah. And it was very cool to get to hang out with him and his wife, and Tasha loves them as well. And it's really cool. But yeah, no, he has a great voice. He definitely has a DJ voice.
Yeah, he has a DJ voice. Now over on YouTube, Connie Keller bids 176, and normally I would say that's not a high enough. That is not a high enough amount to overbid for us to take it away from Jim. But since they live in the same household, I'm going to accept that. That's fine. Yeah, I mean, you guys can just go back and forth.
That's between y'all.
Yeah, that's between y'all. Yeah, Liberty Shamrocker. Liberty Shamrocker.
Yeah.
176.
Connie and Jimmy, yeah.
176 is the new bid. Jim, it's on you.
Man. Just think. I mean, you guys can keep outbidding each other because think of how great Jimmy's voice will sound.
Oh, Jimmy, I knew that Connie was your wife.
When he fixes this.
He already
and
knows how to fix it.
Talking directly into it. Yeah. He's going to sound even better than me because he actually has a good voice. This made my voice sound good. And we're at 177 now.
177.
So there is now a marital argument happening in the comment section. So right now we're at 177. So I'm going to give them a little bit of time to work that out. And just kind of close by saying, guys, this was an insane year.
It was
good and bad. This year was nuts.
I just want to say, I know that a lot of people, COVID was a huge issue. COVID was a huge issue. Many of us lost our jobs. Many of us weren't able to find work. Mm-hmm. You know, we didn't know where our next paychecks, were going to be coming from. You can focus on what was terrible about this year, or you can focus on what was good. I am an anomaly, and I understand that, but I do want to talk about it really quickly. Because a year ago, I was working at a business that got shut down. We were supposed to reopen, but because of COVID, we ended up not. So I ended up being unemployed for literally the year.
Yep.
This was my job doing this, making this show. But this year, while many people would have been like, "Oh, that's awful," like, how did you make it? Like, yeah, it was tough. But a year ago, I didn't have a job. Superfan Sarah Anderegg wasn't living anywhere near me, much less where I can see her every day naked. And the show was kind of one of the only things that I had that was keeping me going. Yeah. And even that was stressful as hell. But over this year, over 2020, over the COVID year, Sarah now lives here. Spike and I somehow got closer than we've ever been.
Yep.
We got closer than we've ever been. I now have a job that I start Monday. 2020 is kind of the best year of my life. Like, I will not look back on 2020 to be like, oh, that year was terrible. I will look back at 2020 to be like, that year changed the course of my life forever for the good. And it really did. And because of that, I have, people like Spike and Jason, and of course, superfan Sarah Anderegg, Adam the Freeman, and my parents, and so many other people that were there. Casey Nether Campbell, she huge helps this year. They kept me going when I was getting down, and because of the support from all of these people, and because that I have this amazing team, don't like to call them a team, this amazing group of friends that are there to help lift you up and help push you. Because of these people, 2020, literally, I am the happiest I have been my entire life right now. And a lot of it has to do with the people around me. A lot of it has to do with different life situations. But no matter what, these are the people that helped lift me up, making 2020 how fantastic it truly was for me. So don't focus on, COVID happened, the election happened. Focus on whatever you can find from this year that was good, that you are learning from, that you can take, and that you can take into the future, and that you can say, you know what, 2020 was a tough year, but I learned a lot from it, and it will make the rest of my life better. Because yes, 2020 was a crazy year, but it could also be the best year you've ever had.
It was. I very much enjoyed this year, and it was very challenging. A lot of incredible stuff happened this year, good and bad. That the loss of some close ones to COVID and other things as well. The loss of my dog that I had for 12 years. He was, I called him he was basically like my best friend, and only just because he was my buddy. He went everywhere with me. He was pretty much always by my side for 12 years, and we had to let him go. And this campaign, meeting so many incredible people across the country, getting to build this thing with Matt, getting to see Matt, bloom in his relationship with Sarah and the kids. Just so many incredible things that have happened this year. So many opportunities that have opened up for both of us and for us together in Muddy Waters. When this mic died, it really drove home thinking, holy crap, all the stuff that we've been through, even just this year. What started out as sort of a, hey, I wonder if I could run for the vice presidential nomination. What would that be like? And then to get it, and then to engage in one of the most robust campaigns that any third party has ever engaged in, certainly the most robust one that the Libertarian Party has ever engaged in. 35 states, 75 stops, tens of thousands of people. That we met with in person, just absolutely incredible. I am eternally grateful for it, and I am so excited to see what 2021 has in store for us and for all of y'all as well. And for those of you who have been here from the beginning, thank you so much. You certainly are some real ones. We will never forget you. And for all of you that are joining now, welcome aboard. And we're just getting started. We're about to have so much fun. We're just getting started with Muddy Waters Media. We're just getting started with our involvement in the Liberty Movement. We're just getting started in so many things we haven't even started yet. And we hope you stick around, because we're gonna have a lot of fun this year. And Matt,
2021 is gonna be a great year.
I absolutely. And Matt, man, I love you. I am honored to be your friend. I am honored to be your partner in this, and I am honored to to be working with you in all of this. I think it is the coolest thing, and I can't wait to do the next thing.
Yeah, I mean, all the same back to you. Like, yeah, we say it a lot on this show, but every time I say it, I mean it. Every Tuesday I get to hang out with my best friend, and talk about what's going on in the world and laugh. And that is truly the best way to spend a Tuesday, is to hang out with your best friend and laugh about what's happening in the world. And I can't honestly think of anyone else I'd rather be doing this with.
Well, thank you.
In the entire world. And
well, thank you.
Every Tuesday it's just fun, and I could not ask for a better life.
Ignat71 says you guys are the modern day Wham.
You're George Michael?
Sure.
I'm the guy whose name I don't know.
I was gonna say I can't remember the other one, so sure, I'll be George Michael.
Modern.
So the final bid, and I'm gonna stop this because you guys are outbidding each other, and this is absurd. Is Connie's bid of $181 and some falafel, which apparently we'll have to collect. Which we'll have to collect when we're up in Ohio next time. So Connie, congratulations. We will send you the payment info, and then I will be happy to send this along. I'm so happy that it's the two of you that are getting this, especially if you're able to fix it. That is so cool. You are guy on the left of George Michael.
It's accurate. That's actually accurate.
Wes Erickson, that's hilarious. So yeah, guys, just thank you guys so much, and Happy New Year. We will see you. Oh gosh, tomorrow. Don't say goodbye yet. Yeah. Tomorrow, I am interviewing Zuby, the libertarian rapper based out of the UK. We will be talking about all the stuff he's been doing, including his blockchain-based clothing line, and some of his very brave and controversial takes on some different issues. So that'll be a pretty exciting episode. So we'll be ending the final Muddy Waters broadcast of this year. Will be me interviewing Zuby. So be sure to check that out tomorrow on My Fellow Americans. Tomorrow, Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, right here on Muddy Waters Media. And guys, and yes, so I'll get my wife to sign it too. Matt, if someone wants to ring in 2021 by joining Muddy Waters Media on the internet, is that even possible? And if so, how can they do that?
It is possible. I just realized I just gave you the last rapper name I'm ever going to give you today. And
it's
I am
sad,
so,
right?
No, not even a little bit. I am so tired of looking for rappers that I've never heard of.
And then Jewifying their name.
Right. And then Jewifying their name. But if somebody wanted to find us on the internet, all you would have to do is go, if you're one of the old school people who truly enjoy listening to the sweet, soulful, buttery sounds of our voices and not seeing the barrage of handsomeness that explodes through the screen at you.
And just listen to us instead.
You can head over to anchor.fm/muddiedwaters.
Anchor.fm/muddiedwaters to hear
Anchor.fm/the
the best of Spike Cohen and Matt Wright.
Where you can also leave us messages that we will play on the air.
And you can give us money too. You can donate money to us.
Yeah, you can donate money.
Give us money. Freedom isn't free.
Or you can find this in every episode of Muddied Waters Media at muddiedwatersmedia.com. Wes Erickson wants to know what your favorite name was.
I think Juicy.
Wow.
Like the easiest one. Yeah, it was just so funny. Like it just came out of nowhere. Like, Rick Rothstein and oh gosh, what were some of the other ones? I'd have to now watch the episodes because it was.
You were still in my phone as LL Cool Jew.
That was a good one too, but just Juicy. I just thought that was funny. Ignatz is saying at Matt owes an answer to his super chat. Oh, we got a $5 donation from Ignatz. Shout out to Ignatz71. It says for right on left. I think that's you. Oh, right on left. Can you briefly explain how the debt can be paid down with immigrants and oil production? Briefly.
No. Nope. I have heard that explanation, and no, I cannot do that briefly. But that is really funny. That is really funny. I'm not going to call out what that's about. But
I know what it's about.
Yeah, but whew, that's good. That's good.
Cannot briefly.
What's that?
It is impossible to briefly do that.
Yeah, you cannot briefly do that.
You can very annoyingly do that.
I can, yes. Yes.
So, folks, be sure to tune in. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for My Fellow Americans, where I will be interviewing Zuby at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain, 5 p.m. Pacific, and then have a fantastic, amazing New Year's. Have a fantastic New Year's, and we will see you next year, next year, next Tuesday, right here. Same muddy time, same muddy place. For the Muddy Waters of Freedom, where Matt Wright and I will ring in 2021 like the sweet little...
Where Spike Cohen and I and Thomas...
Oh, Thomas Queter.
Thomas Queter.
We'll be ringing in the new year with former state legislative candidate Thomas, and all-around amazing guy, Thomas Queter, possible future lieutenant governor of New York. So we'll hang out with him. And guys, have a fantastic New Year's. Thank you so much for being a part of this. We love you so much. We can't wait to see you next week. Tune in tomorrow, of course. And where we're going,
we don't need roads.
Happy New Year's, guys.
What? Get it!
Ain't nothing.
What? Get it! There's some scary shit! There's some scary shit! Ooh! Get up! And whoa! Ooh!
It's all right.